Good afternoon. Hello. Let's give everybody a minute or two to get settled. Hello, everybody. I imagine there's a couple more people kind of making it in, so let's just give them a moment or two. Hope everyone had a nice weekend. So I got lucky. I snuck away in the middle of the whole COVID thing to a farm, and it was wow. I live in Brooklyn, so I to look out the window and there's deer, and I saw a bear yesterday. Never saw a live bear before.
Where did you
Where did you
go?
go? It's New Paltz, New Paltz, New York. Yeah,
Oh, I
I
love
love
New
New
Paltz.
Paltz. What's that?
I
I
love New Paltz so
Yeah,
much.
I know very little about it, but it's so countrified, really. I
Yeah,
an otter. Anyway, here
yeah.
I am.
My best friend goes to New Paltz, the college, so I visit a lot.
I think there. Is your friend doing mostly physical classes? Do you know?
No,
No,
no. She decided to stay home, but they do basically everything online.
right. I know the schools are mixing it up. I have not really gotten specific word about our next semester. Which is fine. It's too much to think about at once. So, so anyway, here we are. Um, I want to say a few things. One, I'm hoping that everyone realized that Project One's been graded, and I want to say a little bit about it. One, I want to say if by some mistake your work showing up as not received and you're getting a zero, just write a polite email to me and tell me what you can. Or I'm sure I submitted it. And I'm sure to write back questions like, did you participate in the critique? And that kind of thing. There are some people who are telling me, oh, I submitted it, but it's not in the folder. It's not in the drafts folder. I don't remember ever seeing it. So I just want to say, be very, very clear. It is possible I've made a mistake, and no matter what happens, I'm on everybody's side. So handle it with some elegance. If any of you find, bless you, if any of you find a missing grade, but write me right away. That work was due in the past, and any action that can be taken has to be taken right away. But I do want to add, so that was week 4 actually when that project was submitted. This is now week 6, so time has definitely moved on. Anyone who's seeking tutoring or anything like that should reach out to me, and I could find out what's available even now during COVID. There's very likely to be some Zoom arrangement for anyone who'd like an extra hand. But you have to keep in touch and be very clear when you send me an email. I do want to say though, the the work looked great. The grades were unusually high. I'm sure the average in the class was probably around a 90. Um, and I totally intend to show the work off and give you credit when I do that. Anyway, we have to move ahead. So I want to just mention, if you have not checked Blackboard, check Blackboard. Um, you have questions for me, is again, send me an email. Well, I'm going to screen share right now, and it'll help me clarify a couple things as it generally does. Okay, so one, I got one or two homeworks that were named like the person never saw my handouts, and that's a little scary this late in the semester. Be very clear that you always visit this address, always, and never hand in a homework without checking the box that reminds you of the details. Give me 1 second. All right. So again, never hand in work with a name other than the name I've given you. Never put it in a folder that's never been mentioned. Never wait at length to tell me that something's gone wrong. Give me a chance to work on your behalf. And on your behalf, always make sure you know this address, iraworks.com/FIT, and that you know how to find your own handout. You know, every handout that has homework tells you in the box exactly what to do. And if it's to be submitted, how to submit it and by what name. Folks, I want to say something nerdy and then I'm going to move on. You know, a lot of you guys are heading toward working in really large outfits. You know, you go to work for Sony or something like that, which I did for a short time. They're gonna have rules for everything. You know, use the network this way, only name things this way, and it's not because they're uptight. It's because there's so much work passing hands and so often that you have to get used to specs. You know what the specifics are. So again, if anyone had issues with that first homework, you don't like your grade or you have no grade showing up. Like I got to say one more thing just about that. You know, this is a high profile school, right? Don't feel like you got in by accident. I haven't seen anyone who got in by accident. Everyone I've seen get in here deserves it, and they've got the talent. Weird word, talent, but anyway, right? They've got the talent to do this, but it is exhausting, and it does take a lot of deep breaths. So I use my website in my class as the central way to stay grounded. You know, and Blackboard once grades go up. You know, but it's very unlikely to pass my class with one missing grade. You know, that adds a zero into the average, and you can imagine what that does, right? So if something's gone wrong, I'm still making room for people. You got to make sure to reach out to me, take whatever thoughtful action you can before time moves a little further. It's going to be too far along for me to accept anything late um, beyond what's current. So I don't want anyone getting into bad habits. But then again, it was the first project, so I want to help people get a leg up if they need one. All right, so it goes. Um, let's see. We are going to need these assets today. If you're already comfortable with downloading the assets, you could even do it while I'm talking. Um, we're going to be working with. Remember last time? Can I ask you guys a question? Because for the life of me, I don't remember. Did we work with a seashell and the pen tool? We did, right? I thought so. So I brought in a number of assets this week, including that one again. But I think I'm going to move on to something a little bit more challenging. So today I would like to hit a little bit pen tool, and I'd like to hit the pen tool um, with another brought in asset. So we'll talk about when we get there. What I'm most anxious to do is to get to look at the drafts. Yeah, somebody trying to get my attention. Did I miss something? It happens. No. All right. Okay, let's see. I want to remind you about the revisions folder. You know, some people get a pretty good grade and then they feel, oh man, you know, after the critique or what my friend told me or this insight I had, that they could take that 90 and turn it into 100 or take that 75 and turn it into a 90. Who knows, you know? So if you did it on time, you reserve the right to give me a revision for any reason you see fit. And there's going to be one revisions folder in our Google Drive the whole semester, right? Just whatever project it is, you add a V2 at the end of the correct name, so I know exactly what you're trying to replace. And if the new one's better, yeah, sure, I'll upgrade. I'll upgrade the grade, right? If you feel the need, okay? All right, I'm not gonna say much. The playlist is up to date, and now we're ready to move forward. All right, let's go get a. Hey, listen, before I do that, I don't want to rush people. Anybody have a question about anything that I might be able to answer? Of course. Don't ask me the future of the election. I don't know. I think I know, but I don't. I thought that 4 years ago. And anyway, all right, let's go look at the drafts. So, all right. So I'm going right into our Google Drive folder. Looks like I had it open there. And we're going to take a look. Now, listen, guys, I want everybody to take a breath, right? These are drafts. You know, like if you're like, oh man, I don't want to show my draft because it's not finished. It's a draft. If it was finished, it wouldn't be a draft. So everybody in here had different ways of seeing. Some people got really excited and their work looks wildly polished. Other people like, you know, I'm going to do my black and white version this week so I could just think. I'll deal with the color later. That's another viable way. There's many ways to do a draft, right? I'm not expecting finished work. It's an opportunity to talk about your work. So, you know, I want to say a couple things. You know, Francesca, I would like you to just double check that you're honoring the half-inch margin. It looks like you might be. You know, these three circles on the top are pretty close to the ceiling, but it does look like they might be within. Just, you know, make sure that you're sure of it. But the thing that I want to say is like, okay, let's say we're going to go very traditional point of view of margin, meaning there's a half-inch moat around the edge, you know, where you don't let the artwork cross. And even if something like this candle was to cross it, That I'd be okay with, because if we printed it in an environment that cut off the margin, turned it white, like some printers will do, this is still going to look great, even without the tail end of the candle. But if we print it in an environment that accepts the whole thing, like a JPEG on the internet, right, then she gets to take advantage a little bit of that extra space. So this works out. But I have to say, the thing at the moment there, I want to tell you some positives. Francesca, where are you? There's some stuff I like, I want to tell you about, and I want to give you some ideas.
I'm
So,
right here.
I love the feel of it. You discovered this way of using the I guess the brushes or other tools that gives you a really handmade feel. This scumbled kind of texture here is nice to see in Illustrator. These kind of rough lines and then kind of very lyrical hand drawn kind of lines. I really like the freedom this shows and the amount of experimentation that it shows. Now here's the couple things that I need. This is wildly dead space over here. It's almost like The
Yeah,
Simpsons.
I wanted to fix that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you make this great negative space, kind of like the strap on in a six pack. And it's like I can't resist these. So these
Mhm.
are going to have to be scaled differently or
Okay.
treated in some way where the space comes to life. So there's that. Now, here's the other thing. I'm trying to see if I understand it. And I want to say something. Look, if you're choosing a difficult process to describe some,
Mhm.
everybody's made something like a grilled cheese sandwich, right? So you show those steps. They're like, well, I do it differently, but at least I understand.
Mhm.
But if you're doing something, further out, it might be more work. So I'm trying to see if I understand this. I all I really get here is a beautiful image with a candle. I do see salt and honey. I do like that both the jars do their work. So even if it didn't say salt and honey, it was headed in the right direction. Then I see an unusual pen and a love note to oneself, followed
Mhm.
by herbs and
Mhm.
gems. Oh, I'm starting to get it. Isn't it? It's all in this kind of like mojo jar, of
Yeah.
self-empowerment.
Yeah.
It's kind of
It's
interesting.
a self-love jar.
I got you. So
So,
is salt and honey like a ritual thing that's part of
yeah.
that? It is.
Mhm. Salt
How
is used for protection and honey is used for like sweetening
how
and
cool.
like to love oneself and all of the things in it are there. I just remember you being telling me that I couldn't use like full on words
Right. Well, let
on
me
it.
back up on that a little bit because it's some, here's the deal, and I want to say this to everybody. So, that one wasn't easy to figure out.
Mhm.
And I did see it earlier, to be honest with you. I took peeks at a lot of these earlier today. But I did figure it out. And she chose a
Mhm.
challenge. So that scores kind of extra points because it was complex and I did actually get it. So, for one, I want to say to you that if you, master the design of the page, because that's the hungriest
Mhm.
thing right now, like
Yeah.
the page doesn't feel as strong as everything else.
Mhm.
But you're in good shape, because you
Okay.
actually got the harder stuff done. About the text, you did the right amount. You needed to clarify the salt, but you showed me a salt shaker. You need to clarify the honey, but it's dripping. It's got the old school honey jar look. In the love note, let's face it, you had to write those words.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not copping out with text. So this is
Mhm.
what I want to say to everybody. I love text and we will do things with typography. But when I say copping out with text, all I mean is if it's a visual communication project and the job is to see if you can do that, communicate just with imagery, then we
Mhm.
want to go as light on text or zero text if possible. So
Okay.
this one really you need more design time.
Okay.
It's looking very promising, so I'm feeling good about it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. This is a really nice seasonal image. I'm just letting it load completely. My some files are larger than others. And I just want to say there's a lot that's beautiful about this. I'd like for everybody to give it, a really hard look. And also, Alexandra, where are you? Oh, I see you. Really nicely done. Really, right off the bat, I just want to say nicely done. For one, the pumpkin is thoughtfully rendered. She found a way either with brush marks or small close shapes to give it darker orange and lighter orange streaks, which really added a lot to the quality. She played a similar strategy on the stalk. One thing I want to say to you, Alexander, before I go any further, because there's so much that I like about this, I got to get one thing off my chest about what I think it needs. The color range is cut down in terms of light and dark. So it really goes in, it's very mid-tone, right? You don't have many darks, but what bothers me more is you don't have many lights. So if I was to shoot this in black and white, for example, and show you a grayscale image, you'd find out that you're trapped in middle grays. So it's making it a little sleepy. So I feel like it's so good that if you go back and just rethink color to create a little more punch out of the color, that can be done in a whole variety of ways, but it's probably about staying, giving us more contrast than what you've got. Like, for example, even the background would equate to just lighter than middle gray if I shot it, the page that you're using, right? And then the spoon does the same thing, and all kinds of elements do. So I think if you go back and rethink the color, which probably won't be very hard, I think you'll find yourself that you can be twice as excited about it. But I have to say, I'm just loving this one, even in the way it is. I love this strong vertical line, really convincing hand too. We've all drawn hands, so we know the challenge of that. But it has this very strong vertical, and then we move here where it switches to a strong diagonal. It's something I want to say to everybody in here. We all watch TV, I am sure, or movies when we can. And you see the way people change camera angles in movies. And it's a great language for illustrators to get used to and graphic novelists because she brought her camera in. She gave us a long shot and then she gave us a medium shot, and now she's got an overhead close up. So she's moving her camera around, which is just, wonderful, to do. So it keeps us visually interested. I like the fact that even though, so we're close up now, I've got this diagonal, which is a very strong thing. It's got an echo of the same diagonal beneath it, but to the right of it, it creates this upside down V as the knife creates a relationship with the spoon, which takes me back into the now open pumpkin with an aerial view, which is pretty cool. And then we switch over to the next row, and we didn't need directions because, we're working from left to right. And there's the drawing, and then there's the cutting, and again, this nice echo. And then we've got the full shot of the pumpkin. So I have to say, really high level stuff, but there's just two things I'd like you to look at, and they're both about design. They're not really about drawing or communication, as it turns out. So I already said what I had to about the color, and I stand by that. I think some changes with the color is going to make this thing go nuts, nuts in a good way. But here's the other thing. You have these very strong vertical bars that are not really helping in any way. They become massive walls, in between the columns that you've created. So, don't feel like, oh, well, Ira gave me a margin, so my left must go up to the margin and my right must go up to the margin. I mean, maybe you should just bring them in. Maybe that would work, and that would just feel like airspace. Find the amount of width that this bar deserves, and this one too. The other thing is, it's somewhere along the line you felt like, okay, I want squares, but maybe that didn't really help. Maybe the idea is that they could be rectangles, and you'll have more space to breathe. Like this guy feels very cramped, for example, and he's so important. Now that I think about it, maybe this guy should just lose his frame completely. Let him breathe onto the page. But you'll have to figure that out. I want you to work something out where this doesn't become dead space or this, right? And that the color serves you. But I have to say, well drawn, well communicated, pretty top shelf work. You over there, Alexandra? I can't tell. You're very poker
Oh,
face.
thank you.
I know you're not supposed to look too happy when the
Yeah.
teacher does something good, right? We're like, I'm kidding around. All right. Let me move on. This is wild. Claire, really, you got so nervy on this one. I'm sure people are like, hey, can I do that? Can she do that? Yeah, I think she can do that. I mean, she just treated the frames as this freewheeling kind of floating tiles, which actually overlap each other. And I gotta tell you, I've done a lot of these, and not one person's done that. Really, that's a new one, and I'm so glad to see it because it's fresh, and it's making us look again, rethink a little bit. So that's really fun. She's got a very casual drawing. It's obviously become more confident. I don't mind saying, Claire, you looked kind of nervous in the past, but but I think you're passing through where you need to get. Where are you? There you go. Well, maybe you didn't look that nervous in the past. I think I'm getting confused. This is very confident. It's simple, and I want everybody to notice simple can really work. I keep pointing to this frame just because I particularly like it. It's just such a strong frame. It's like paste up art. You'd stick it around the walls of Manhattan, everybody'd scratch their head and say, what is she saying? Everyone's telling me to wash my hands all the time. Do I have to brush my teeth all the time? But anyway, it's a strong image, very strong. And then we move on, and there's more that's strong. I mean, again, I'm so happy with the design that that's most what I want to talk about. But water is always hard to interpret, isn't it? I mean, she figured out how to create this transparency that's rather convincing. And also then we move over here. One of my favorite moments is how the bottom of the toothbrush creates a line that comes right into the toothpaste in the next frame. Now, this is like marvelous, and this is something that cartoonists take very seriously. Cartoonists and graphic novelists, storyboard artists to some degree, even bothered to show the far side of this opening for the toothpaste to come out and made a strong shape out of the toothpaste. Do you remember the ketchup one? Was that in your class? Did one of you guys do a frame with ketchup in it? Is that here? Somebody did this. It might have been my other group. Someone did something with ketchup, and it was beautiful the first time, but the shapes weren't strong because it's a blobby thing, ketchup. But then we were talking about strong shapes. Toothpaste could have gone the same way. But here we have a beautiful gesture, another very confident drawing, and there we are in the mouth. We know exactly what's going on. Even tried to make this spitting out part less gross, except for it is green. It's a little exorcist, Claire, just a bit. I'm half kidding you. I know, mint toothpaste. Of course, it's going to be green or Crest or whatever. And then we're over the sink. I was looking at this one for a while to try to figure out, like, is there more for you? Like, and what would I do type of questions if it were mine. One thing that's a little weird about the way that we're previewing is we can't really see the edge of her page much, right? To kind of appreciate the way the outside works. But you could, if you squint, you could see that there's, she allowed a lot of space over here. I asked for a ½ inch margin, but I never said you couldn't have more space. Margin's just protected. You could always do more if it works for your design and, respecting the page, which she does. So I got to say, Claire, this is all I've got for you, really. It's a really good project. It's going to get a high grade. Since you're kind of early and I don't have any massive fixes for you, what I would do is save a safe copy, take another copy out and play with it. See if we didn't get to brushes yet, or I mean to say like brush marks, different kinds of brush mark. Since you have a lot of strokes, I think it might be very exciting for you to look up brush marks and see what you make those strokes do, since they're already there. I can't wait to show you, but since I can't show you everything at once, I'm constantly holding my breath, waiting for the next cool thing. Remember gradients for last week? I wanted to show you all that week 1. Anyway, there's a lot more to share. Well done, Claire. I'm really anxious to see if there is an upgrade, and even if there wasn't, you're in very good shape with this. Really quite like it. There we go. So, this artist here is really kind of mapping out their project. It's a, super methodical, and I know that it's a draft. So the artist is, probably imagining what comes next. And I want to say what I like about it before I go anywhere. Look, I recognize that there's a lot of repetition going on here, right? There's that glass. Well, actually, there's 2 kinds of glasses, it looks like to me. So I'm going to ask the artist pretty soon some questions. But first, I want to point something out. This glass is simple, but super confident, right? You come down to the other glass and it's got a little bit more detail and it's also super confident, right? This is really hard. One of these, I have one of these, this specific kind of coffee maker. But the artist, really thought it out. It's all really confident and the space is very sure of itself. But the 2 things naturally that I'm going to want to see next. Annette, where are you? Can you wave at me? There you are. I see you. And I know you probably see some of this in your head, I'm guessing. But I myself am anxious to see what the process is. It's almost like you showed me what your main actors are, but I have no idea what the play is going to be about.
I I didn't like get as much done for the draft as I wanted, but I already have like all the steps planned out. I just didn't get a chance to like do it all. Um, but
And that's okay, because what you did shows a lot of maturity anyway. I hope you guys could see that, because I know what she's doing is very simple, right? As she said herself, she would have liked it, even as a draft, would have liked to go further. But there's something very confident about it. It's got the air of someone who's not fooling around. It's God, everybody's using the word mindfulness lately. Have you been hearing that? It's like so fashionable to talk about mindfulness. I got to tell you something though. I've just studying that philosophy for years before the word mindfulness was ever used to translate it. Reading the philosophies that comes from since I was younger than anyone in this room, as it turns out. But it's true, when it comes to artists, we should take that seriously. We all know what one pointed focus is. It's one thing that most artists have experience with. So this shows a real lot of focus, Annette. I'm I'm open. I got to see what happens next week. I don't really have anything to offer you because, I'd be winging it, wouldn't I? You know,
Yeah.
but I like what you have. One thing I just want to say to everybody, since we do have it out, is what's going to be curious is, will this very repetitive rhythm work out? It might. I'm sure some of you know techno music, right? And there are times when like they might stay with a rhythm forever, or even tribal music for that matter. And this is sort of like a visual version, an ingredient got added. Oh, okay, someone hit the cymbals. We come down here, now there's a second drum with these cubes. So this could work. Uh, but then you have to wonder, will scale come into play? Will at some point you want one of the cups to be the starring cup, be larger than the others? And, I don't know. I really can't tell yet. Annette may know, but we're all going to have to wait to find
It's a
out.
surprise.
Right, exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. But you're welcome. The first thing I do when I look at these, and I often take a peek, um, especially that's so easy now with the Google Drive that we share. I want to see if there's impact. That's the first thing, impact. And if there's impact, I go on to the next question, which is, what's the artist telling me? So I just got to say, about this one, June. It's just, it's sort of so much fun to look at. I got to say, it's like, where are you, June? Can you wave at me? Help me out. There you are. It's so much fun to look at this. I think and it's odd, right? I mean, it's a face mask, isn't it? I got to take a look again, but it's almost like, if you're going to make someone work a little to try to figure it out because it's hard to figure out, you got to make it worth it. It's like, let's face it. I hate to say this, and since it's on YouTube, I could get attacked for this, but part of what we do is make eye candy. That is part of what we do. We make eye candy. Someone's going, don't judge a book by its cover, but it's okay to pick it up if you like the cover. So we're baiting everything. So this has got a lot of quality bait going. I mean, the colors are beautiful and the shapes are elegant. All right, how to make a green tea mask, right? And again, like, I'm not going to give her an argument for doing that. There was no way I was going to know this was green tea without that help. I would know it was a face mask. So anyway, let's take a quick look. She's got these beautiful, really, beautiful, very frontal, organized actors, I like to call them. We've got the four parts. We definitely recognize the bowl and the spoon. Then there's some kind of mix in a jar here. There's several fairly esoteric ingredients. So I know this is the green tea mostly because I see it's green, and she told us about the green tea. Not totally sure what the other two things are, but they all get mixed in a jar or at equal proportions, right? Which is, again, kind of a fun use of the text because it's very graphic. 1:1:1. Very beautiful looking. So I'm definitely gonna let that work. And then, is it being stirred? I love the tilted bowl. I mean, you really can draw, and you really know how to use these clean shapes. Little drop in the air, slight spoon to make sure that we're diagonally brought back into the page. Now, here's where it gets a little weird. Like, my eye, and listen, let's be clear, right? So I'm Mr. Western guy, and teaching in a Western school. And, I know that of countries that I visited where they read left to right or top to bottom. But in most of the Western world, people can go to the next row and start from the left, you know. So we have to deal with that, right? I come down here and I'm like, oh, it's a mask already? Time has passed? What happened to this poor person? They're facing the water. Oh, God. But then I realized, no. The bowl came down here, and is this, I got to ask you, June, because I love this one, but I am a little confused. This frame here, that is the fourth step, right?
The mask one is the fourth one.
It is the fourth one. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, oops. So I'm a little confused. Let me just be sure that, whether you need to make a change or whether I wasn't thinking. So it goes on. I see. I got it. Time's passed. The face was washed at the end. So I know some of you looking at me like, Ira, didn't you ever do a face mask? No. So I think I had a small disadvantage there. I didn't realize what was going on. Now I get it. Listen, June, you don't look nervous. Your drawings are beautiful. I really like your work. I'm very confident in your future, by the way. And I like your color. Don't you guys like her color a lot? I mean, I'm sure that would have been the first thing mentioned if I'd gone around the room. So a lot of people would have said, it's the color, it's the color. And it really is. So I see. I think what I'm going to need from you that'll just clarify the whole thing again is on the last frame, and maybe if we do, you probably have to do it on the mask. You need to draw a face that allows you to tilt it so it still looks like a face. Like this here is not too much like a face anymore. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't know which direction to go. I think you were headed the right way. You knew that my eye would come here. Gave me I like this drawing, but it's just not going to work in terms of facing it down. Do you understand?
Yes.
Right. So there's that. And I also want to say something to everybody that always comes to mind. I remember art school really well, and you could kind of tell when the teacher's advice is coming from taste. This is what the teacher likes. And I do everything I can to avoid that, right? And I don't even know what my taste is because I like such a wide range of things, right? But I try not to get anyone to do anything. If they're doing something unusual, I want to make sure that it's unusual and works. So June, I want to say to you, again, you're one of the artists in the room that just likes a lot of empty space, just a real lot of empty space. And, the one reason why I'm a little hesitant to tell you, oh, it's too much space. A little part of me wants to say it's too much space. But you really know how to handle it. The shape of that empty space is beautiful no matter where I go. The design is very, very sensitive. So I'm a little bit at a loss. Part of me wonders, am I just being a New Yorker who needs everything to be louder? Or is that what it is? Is this like, oh, this is just a more subtle? You guys know what I'm saying? So I got to say, June, I like this a lot. At the least, make sure I'm clear about what's going on the very last frame. That seems to be critical with understanding the whole thing. It's going to get a very high grade. I'm curious to see what goes on with that last frame. Whether you should make anything larger or smaller or use more of the space. Look, I know if it was mine, I would probably keep this safe. I'd fix the face. And then I might do a version where I break that evenness of size just to see what would happen if it wasn't so equal through the entire story. And then whichever one's better, hand in for the final. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yes. All right. I like these a lot. I could tell. I gotta say, I teach another group, and because they didn't have holidays, you guys move forward around Thanksgiving, but right now they're a couple weeks forward. I got to see the difference between the drafts and the finals, and just like we saw in the first project, they're often huge. Stuff that was beautiful gets like really beautiful in that 1 week that's left. That's just a particularly strong one this early. So we've got another pumpkin. It is the season after all. Also a really nice one. Really clean, simple, clear. Be very attractive for any age. I love like the beautifully drawn objects. Each one is given a lot of respect. They kept simple, but each one really cares. There's no generalizing. The knife, that's even a Sharpie. Oh my God, I recognize the kind of marker. These different devices, a beautiful spoon and of course the candle. We again have to shift views, so we've got this really strong top view. I want to say something to you, Juliana, about that. Where are you?
Right here.
There you are. Juliana. By the way, you might be able to tell when I talk in the class. I'm a multimedia artist, so I've moved through different art forms, and I started as a cartoonist. So this project's kind of close to my heart because it's similar in that it's frames that tell a story. And so I studied with very famous artists. I was really very lucky in that way. But later I started making movies and working with people making movies, and I realized wow, I learned so much from my cartooning classes. I couldn't believe how helpful it was making movies. So one thing I want to say to you in the story you're telling is that one camera angle where we look at the top view is so useful to you because it's the one part where the rhythm gets broken. There's that one big change, and it happens to fortunately be in the middle, you know, so that here we go, we're here. So it just makes me wonder, like, what we could do to break up again. I have to say, the one thing that class has a lot of issues with is space. Really like getting and that's classic first year, frankly, first 10 years issue is really starting to love space as much as you love the objects to figure how do you finesse space? How do you draw space? So I don't know. On yours, it's not like I want you to change angles because your story's so well told. It's really easy to tell what's going on. And you do have this. I guess I'm looking for as a solution to break up this space. You know, I'm wondering if this doesn't have to stay in the imaginary box since you didn't give it a box anyway. Maybe it could just sit right here. We don't know what it was. I would have said the same thing about these, but they look so good hugging that pumpkin that way. But I don't know if maybe a different arc would be better or worse than this one. This one I feel pretty confident about. Of course, the simplest strategy would be to move the 2 rows in because it's mostly the space in the middle that's not working for you so well. I don't know if you see it or not, but this is,
Yeah, I definitely see that too.
yeah, it's just so much dead space. So I want to just throw ideas at you.
Yeah,
The
please.
the drawings are confident. The story's well told. It's really strong. You know,
You.
so this is the time where, again, like I've said to others in the room, you should save a copy, and then have another one where you get to let loose a little bit. Like, is there anything else? So the art, the pumpkin glows. You went out of your way to find a really specific charcoal gray, not quite black, right? And does it work? It does work, but I would spin through all kinds of colors quickly and see if any of them have a chemical reaction with those pumpkins that you missed. Since it's just click, choose, click, choose, click, choose, right? And so, because one of them is going to be like, whoa, didn't see that coming, you know? And who knows, it might be one of the colors from the pumpkin itself that would be the best background. So something has to be done with that space. It could be proximity. I don't know if everybody knows that word, right? That just means closeness. How much proximity? Not like rush hour subway, you know what I mean? But not, outer space. We want to find the magic proximity. The other could just be color. It also could be scale. Look, guys, I know I repeat that one a lot, only because by and large, the class isn't really confident with scale. Everybody's kind of thinking things should be even, but they won't be in any TV show. Look, if the TV show and the guy's like this, at some point it's like, oh my God. And then the next frame's like, because that's the intimate shot, so if you keep it the same distance all the time, things get a little drier. Look, I do want to back off because, one of my favorite authors wrote a book called Not Always So. And just the title's worth the book. Not always so. Sometimes repetition's where it's at. I really like this one. You really can't go wrong with it. I'm just talking about possibilities that might take it even further.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Christina, where are you? Oh, I see you. Hello. Hello. So, this one's moved forward quite a bit. I want to say a couple things right off the bat. So we're having a peanut butter banana sandwich, and don't laugh if you've never had one, you're missing out. Got to try it. She's having it with a glass of milk. One simple thing I'm going to ask you to consider is work on the crust of the bread because it's so dark and so thick that it winds up being a visual target. So, I mean, all the way around. Like, I looked at these at first, and the shape is perfect, dead on bread slice, but I think that colors, the dark, thick crust against the extremely light bread is bringing my eye here. And I'm not as interested in all the other stuff that's really important. And that's true, except for here. Here it suddenly looks great because it's got solid competition. You know, it's got the peanut butter there, and it's got the wonderfully drawn banana slices on top of it. So this kind of makes a great frame. But I do think in general, though, that I would, this is winning too much of the eye's attention. Here's the next thing that's also creating a little bit of trouble, not hard to fix. Another eye catch. You know something? It's almost like, you know how to trap an animal, right? You put the food out, right, all the way to the trap. And we do this as artists all the time. You know, if we went to a museum together, I could just show you the track of the trap on almost any piece of art, any photo or any painting. You know, we do it without even thinking, but we have to, get more conscious about that path. So I just want to point out here, you trying to let me know that this is peanut butter, right? So I got a blue oval around it, right? At least that's the way I'm interpreting it, that you want to be sure that I don't think it's Nutella or that dastardly cashew butter.
I was thinking even worse because that's what it was looking like before the label.
Oh, is that supposed to be the label? So I think you could let it go to some degree. Let's take a look together, right? I understand. I think the blue is just stands out so much that it becomes like a very important object, like a little UFO from Peanut Planet. You know, I'm just kidding with you because I know you have a sense of humor, but I would simplify the peanut image so it does the job you want. Let go of that oval if you can, because it's really stealing the show, right? Partly it's the color, but I think it's also the shape. It's not organic, but it's not even a jar. You know what I mean? So it gets a little confusing, right? So I think you could keep the peanut, maybe move it down here as just a simple symbol. I think everyone would get it. It doesn't have to be a label. Maybe it shouldn't be a label at all, just a symbol. You know, after that, you could just let it go. At that point, we know it's peanut butter. You could just delete it. I have the feeling this is going to look great without this frame, right? Here we get to cutting the banana. So the bottom row is especially strong. So I want to tell you the only thing that's on my mind right now, other than those two things, these traps for the eye that weren't helping, because the rest is, going really well, is I'm a little unsure of the gradient in the background. It's not that it's a gradient, it's the specific gradient, you know? It's very sweet, kind of sugary. And not that that's the problem, but it is. You know, it's heading me out into fruit shakes and other kinds of product, really, that would typically have a background like that. But more so, I don't think it's framing the objects in the foreground because so many of them are so light. You know, like I lose the banana. This is kind of fun, so I'm a little on the fence. But I just feel like in some spots, I don't know. Basically, is what I'm going to say to you. Keep the gradient, but change the colors in it if you remember how. You know,
I really tried mixing a couple different colors and I got frustrated, so I left it with what it was.
perfect.
But my intent was like kind of after school special,
Ah,
like after school snack.
got it. I would keep that in mind and keep going forward with it because you've got really good ingredients. This is as a draft, it's very developed. So I would have a lot of fun with the stuff in the background until something does magic and you'll know it. And if you're frustrated, you did exactly the right thing, especially when you're a week away from a deadline. Back up. You go in when you're fresh, you know. So you have to say, nice rhythms. There's a lot going on here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So it's interesting. I was telling you guys all earlier, and I stand by this point of view. I look for impact first. It almost doesn't matter what the assignment is for that first judgment call. Does it have impact or not? And because I know that in the real world, whether you're a commercial artist or a fine artist, if it doesn't have impact quickly, most people are just going to leave. When you think about the most subtle artists out there, it's interesting how they get known because very few people. There's an artist out there, Robert Ryman, who I happen to love, making art 50 years, I would guess. And they're so subtle. They're all white. You go into a show, it looks like white panel after white panel. But anyone who's tuned in to Ryman sees the magic subtleties. They're all different. And that's Rhyman, by the way. I'm not sure they'll even work on the internet, though, because they're that subtle. You might have to see them in person. But how did he get started? Like, what made the first people stop and look instead of walk by and say, oh, God, modern artist painting everything white? So I don't know. one of the reasons I bring this one up is right off the bat, the impact is there. It's so fresh. You just want to look at it. You want to understand it, but really at first it's just like got a lot of air. I love the way Ashton, where are you? Like this is some really good use of white. And everybody's going to tell you it's about the color. And it is. It is. But like you get white as a color. And all the other colors are making the white go crazy. It doesn't feel like blank or the default color of your paper. It feels like you just really mean it, which I really, really like. And she went to town on this idea of the different color circles. This is a beautiful frame, and I'm seeing 3 primary colors in a shirt. I'm not going to let Ashton tell me yet what these are. Oh, I just suddenly realized they're probably rubber bands. But I'm going to ask her later. But these are ingredients, and it's a great frame. Really, it looks like a weird badge that a team on some strange team would wear. The shirt coloring, the Olympic shirt coloring team. It's just sort of perfect. And then you move on, and again, an equally beautiful frame. I had to think about this one though, because I couldn't tell what was going on. I thought, is something being poured in the bottle, and why is it this color? If is this a blue liquid, or is it a gray liquid? So I got a little lost, and then over here it got shaken up, and I could see indeed. Is it water being mixed with the color? Is that it?
Yeah,
Ah,
that's it.
how many of you guys already knew that? You could say so. Did you already know that it was water?
Yeah, I knew it was bleach and water being mixed in there probably.
Oh, that's because you did this before.
Yeah, it's also just really well done, Ashton. It's amazing.
It is beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate
There's
it.
no doubt about it. But I have to say, like, if this is tie dye, right? But I've never done it, so I think those of you who've done it are like, oh, it's obvious, Ira. But in any case, I don't know if that could be clarified more. So is this? Oh, it's bleach and water. Does she have to write water and bleach next to it? It's so pretty. It's so beautiful without the text. I'm dying to find a way where she doesn't have to tell me what it is.
Yeah, I feel like the text would ruin it because it's so clean looking.
I know. I mean, I wonder if bleach had a chemical. I wouldn't mind H2O next to the water. I wish bleach had a chemical number. Juliana, did you just have an idea?
Yeah, I do like the chemical composition idea. I was just saying that I definitely got the water, but I didn't get the bleach. Also, I know bleach is clear, so you can't really draw clear
Right.
on white. But I think the gray threw me off a little bit too. I kind of thought it was pattern. Maybe even
Right.
like a slight pale yellow would help.
Maybe, and Ashton, if you could think of any way to, if bleach bottles have a consistent shape, maybe give me a faint beach bottle behind one and a
Okay,
typical
yeah.
water pitcher, or, nearby for the water, some other kind of symbol system, something like that.
Bleach is basically chlorine, so you could do the chemical composition for that too.
That's interesting.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I like
That's a
that.
good idea, right? Because I think everyone's enjoying it. It's just so selective and so clear. So you're shaking up the bottle, we got the shirt ready. It looks like the shirt's being prepared in some way, maybe scrunched up, not totally clear. This is a little hard to get. Like I took a leap when I realized these were rubber bands, but it does look a bit like a spider web. So I don't know if there's any way you could clarify it. Obviously the last frame is clear, and I know this is about applying color to sections. So it makes these two really important to communicating. If you could find some way to make sure that people who know nothing about tie-dye like myself would get that, I think it'll be a big advantage.
Perfect. Yep. I contemplated putting like a 9th step in between the 2 circles in the bottom left corner, just to
Right.
kind of add something in the middle so it didn't go from this flat shirt to this crumpled up ball. So now that I know that you think the same, I'm going to go
Right.
ahead and do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you could see it, we're after clarity. You already got the impact. You've got the design on your side. All the spacing is right. All of that. Nicely done.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I want to zoom out a little bit on this guy for a second. Give me a moment. There we go. This just giving me a hard time zooming back. Give me a second. I got a second way of doing it. So you know, we could see this is a really interesting kind of draft, and I bet the artist is a little could be a little nervous. If you are, Alex, don't be nervous, right? There's something I like the way seeing how someone thinks. You know, there are these drawings here that are very much the way you draw on paper when you're thinking out loud. You know, not ready, you know, yet to commit to things, and then it looks like there was a level of satisfaction where the commitment came in, and Alex decided to start actually drawing the objects, and you could tell they're going really well, which you know, makes me kind of excited to see what the other drawings are going to be like. We see what the main elements look like, and they're really kind of beautiful and very textural. Love all the spots around the plant, this poor dying plant, and I love this. I have this exact watering can at my house, except mine leaks all over the place. Alex, where are you? Right, nicely done. You know, I have to say, like, the draft is a little early, you know,
Yeah.
but I'm not objecting to it because you mapped out your steps. You showed me a little bit of what the look is that you're after.
Hmm.
By the way, I really do like that look. So
Thank you.
I would definitely keep going. It's got real texture, you know, the materials of can versus pot and
Hmm.
plant, you know, which I really like. The one thing that I don't have a chance to talk to you about because it's so early is design. Like, you could tell, like, the space here is definitely not on your mind. Neither are the margins. You're very much thinking about steps and the separate drawings. So you got to pop those margins in so you can move things in and figure
Hmm.
out if you just want to just respect the margin, or have some playful game with the margin, but you can't just ignore them. So you do need a 1/2 inch margin. Oh, you also want to make sure this space doesn't just go dead on you, right? So it's going to
Hmm.
have to be, you know, and if you like, you could finish drawing them each out and then blow some up or blow some back and move them around, see what
Yeah.
magic they have when they dance together, because that's what design is. It's not about the separate dancers. It's about, you know, the design that dance actually is, you know. So I have to say, there's a lot for me to wonder about given the stage you're at, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of promise, so it makes me kind of excited at the same time. So, you know, it's interesting to me. You know, Lorianne, where are you?
Right here.
There you are. So, you know, these elements are just so much fun. They're just so much fun. I mean, you know what I'm going to say, probably based on all the comments I've made. This is purely a design problem, you know, at this point, because the elements are so strong. It's going to be a small design party. So I want to say a couple quick things to you. You know, I don't think I showed this artist to you guys before, but can you interrupt me if you're like, Ira, you did show us this? The artist is Paul Rand. Doesn't ring a bell? I want to show you guys something. And again, don't, it's not rude if you're telling me, oh yeah, you know, you did show us. All right, so I want to show you now, especially you, Lorianne, but everybody. Paul Rand is incredibly famous. He's one of the candidates for most famous designer who ever lived. He's right up there in the world's, like, probably top 10, right? And the thing about him that's so interesting is everybody knows that he designed the world's most famous logos, literally all of these. Crazy, one person did all of these, and many, many more. He was the king of logos. But the reason that I bring him up was I see him as an illustrator designer, meaning he designed whole books, whole magazines, brochures, top dollar, top fame, top respect that he earned. But he drew everything himself. So he's very much an illustrator, often did the text by hand. And the thing that people should sing about that you don't hear about so much are his children's books, because his children's books really kind of lay out on the line what his secrets were. And um, he would have loved Adobe Illustrator had he gotten a chance to use it. Like, if you look at these here, for example, look how simple the design is, but the space is so right, and the colors are so right, and every shape is so strong, and the text fits there like a glove, you know, and he just does it with everything he touches over and over again, this simple perfection, you know. Look at this spread over here, where this little character's climbing up into the bookcase. Is that one of the best cats you've ever seen? And the whole choice to leave the left side this open. So Paul Rand, if this excites you at all, check him out. You know, there's an experiment going on in every page. Here, look at this one. Look at the negative space the greens make. But, you know, he borrowed a hell of a lot from the fine art world, and mostly Matisse. And mostly Matisse cutouts, which he made at the end of his career, were wildly popular early in Paul Rand's life. So these are huge pieces of art. This is called the grand scale, the grand snail. But it's all about negative and positive space and strong shape and color and movement. This is a fine artist that Paul Rand studied. I'm surmising, anyway. So I love these angular shapes. And I got to tell you also, Lorianne, there's another artist, Saul Bass. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. The 70s designers that were very influential. I want to show, because your work actually makes me think of him even more. Saul Bass. Look at this one. I mean, really, to think that simply and still be that strong just makes me jealous. You know, because ultimately it wasn't about sweat. You know, it was about vision that allows him to do stuff like that. This is Paul Bass. This guy's been copied a lot, especially the last few years. Also, it looks like a heavy logo artist as well. All right, anyway, let's get back to your work. I want to say, if I wasn't taking too much time, I would luxuriate, download yours, and start moving things around to show you how many possibilities there are. But I'm not going to do that. I want you to do it. And so I want to say something. So we got the equipment, including the wax. You had to write wax. None of us would have known about surfboard wax. I come from a surfing town, so I recognize these things. That on the water, paddling out, and then actually surfing. So, you know, one thing that I would like to say to you is keep a lot of the empty space. I don't know if you're tempted to make it all water behind all the frames, just one big field of water. But whatever you do, I'd keep it airy, you know, lots of space. I really like that the final surfer is the biggest drawing on the page. And I'd like you to keep that idea of playing with scale. Maybe the top row could be smaller things and the bottom row could just be bigger, you know, or in some way, you know, I want you to activate the space with these kind of colorful drawings that are all really working well with the white and all of these wonderful angles and interesting shapes. But if you look at Paul Bass or Saul Bass and Paul Rand, you might get ideas about how to activate that negative space. How you doing over there, Lorianne?
Good.
Am I making any sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm like working on it right now and like moving them.
All right. Moving, scaling if necessary. You know, you want them to have a chemical reaction on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really, it's very promising though. It looks like it'd be fun to work on.
Thank you.
There we go. So I'm going to do a few more, you know, before we take any kind of break. June, where are you? June, is she here?
Hi, sorry, don't mind me.
Oh, it's okay. Are you on camera or off camera? Can you wave at me?
Hello.
Oh, there you are. Hi. So, you know, I want to say the page is so elegant. When I first looked at it, it was like, I didn't even want to look too deep into the criteria, you know, the assignment, because just the page is beautiful. It's just a beautiful thing. You know, you ever like see in a science fiction movie when they find the writing of the alien species? You know, it could be on a ship or on a cave wall, a temple wall, and you don't even care what it says. It's like magical and beautiful. This has a little bit of that quality of like some strange magic language, you know, that with its own mystery. Of course, though, being a communication design assignment, my next step after being awestruck was to see if I understood it. Now, this is where I started to have some problems. So, you know, if you're telling me that I fold this over to get it into a diamond shape, let me make this a little bigger in a second.
Oh, should I like turn the paper around?
This one would have to be turned, yeah. I think if this was diamond oriented, you know what I mean? Then I would understand what this one is. The other thing that I want to say, so if this was a diamond, then I saw the arrow, I'd know you folded it over. and then I would recognize this part from here, you know, so, or, it'd actually be here, right? Since it would be diagonal, right? The other thing I want to point out is I love the way the gradients work. Um, that they make almost separate pages for themselves, all 8.
Actually, like before I even started creating any of the images, I had like this stock photo of like a folded piece of paper, and it just so happened to be like cut so that like there's like just 8 spots, and I was like, oh, this is weirdly convenient. So I actually had the stock photo underneath while I was drawing all these, and then once I finished all of them, I took it out and I was like, how can I just do this but like in Illustrator? And I was like, gradients it is. So I just did a gradient square for each one, and I was like, this kind of looks like folded paper, and I didn't know what to do with the background at the time, so I was like, this weirdly
I know
worked out.
it's wonderful that you're that sensitive and open to it, because art is definitely not always about calculating in advance. It's creating wonderful accidents and then recognizing them.
I was
Like,
like, thank God it
how do you
actually.
set up for
I was
good
like, I need
accidents?
to fill in this space somehow. Like, oh.
And conceptually, that's great that you're talking about paper on a background that feels like folded paper, which is wonderful. But I do want to point out that this blue arrow almost disappears in this gradient. It makes a wonderfully subtle light, but can we handle that much subtlety here when it's that important that I see it?
I was like,
So
I want the colors to look nice with like the kind of like salmon that I chose, but I was like, but I
right.
also like,
yeah, I will again,
black,
frankly,
like a black arrow, but then I already have
right.
the black lines.
Gotcha. So listen, I want to throw some ideas at you, right? Because time is limited. This one should be, as I said, diamond oriented and salmon colored, right? Because it's disconnecting from the other pages.
Oh, it's supposed to be like origami paper, like one side's
So
and the other side's like a color or a pattern.
Got it. I wish there was a way you could help me understand that here. I wouldn't want you to overlap two because it'll feel like two pieces of paper.
But that's
But
why I use light in like in the 5th step. That's why like in the inside, because
right.
it's the inside.
Right. So I wish there was some way that you could tell me that. I don't know, maybe just putting a pink thin trim around the white page would be enough of a clue for me that there's another side. I think that might help.
Making the back a slightly different color, like the light salmon or something. Yeah. So it's still different, but just not as a stark contrast.
Well, I don't really have a problem with the way that her background's working for most pages. It's just behind this one blue arrow.
Oh, no, I meant the paper itself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. That's interesting. Make the instead of white, you're saying a very pale version of the color. That could work also. So I think something like that won't be hard to do and it'll really help that communicate. I want to move on though. To go from here to here was a tremendous leap. So at this stage, as beautiful it is, I'm just completely lost. It definitely looks like steps had to be missing. I mean, how could all these parts be pointing down and folded up right after this one? So listen, I don't really want you to explain it to me because the whole project is you visually explaining it to me. So this is what I have to say to be very clear. It's so beautiful, but isn't communicating yet. So I would like you to keep all the ingredients that you can and change whatever ingredients you can't until I could actually follow the folds, because that's your job. I should be able to imitate this based on your drawings, and I have no idea how to get from 2 to 3.
I was like, how do I try and make a crane and visualize it in 8 steps?
I don't know. And frankly, if you do need more steps, go ahead.
Oh, really?
I'll let you expand if that's what you need. I love the way this looks.
I was like, I need, like, am I limited to just 8? Like, because if I can show more, then like it
all right,
a lot more clear.
If you want to do that, then I'm going to accept it, okay. Right? Because I love the way this looks. I think it's going to be very successful. But it's definitely beautiful. But I think we saw this one, right? This was a backup, different format. That's smart. Oh, I didn't get a peek at this one earlier today. So, Sam's definitely going to town on the separate drawings. Some of these are just beautiful. I mean, the airplane itself is just so much fun to look at. So anyway, we've got, they're numbered. We got a plane, we got a flag, which I'm going to have to guess is France. And of course, the picnic table, even flowers. This is obviously, he's mapping out international romance so quickly. In just 3 steps, I already know what's going on by the time we get to the flowers. And of course, there's got to be wine. Frankly, even a drawing of just wine and flowers, it's romance. You know it is. But he took it a level further, and he's really, taking it another notch up. The artist is really, pulling it off. Again, if it's France, you got to have your baguette, you got to have your wheel of cheese. and the very convincing Eiffel Tower. So obviously it's the figures that are going to need the most work, as well as I have some design issues. But Sam, are you here? Where are you?
Yes, hi.
Hi, there you are. So I have to say, I really love the separate drawings. You're really getting the hang of Illustrator. So what I'm looking forward to seeing, though, are two things. One, in keeping with the biggest theme of today, and frankly, the last project one also, was like how to activate the page so that the page is boss. Once you've got your elements, how does it bring the page to life? So again, it's always about negative space. It's always about scale. How big is this next to that? And is there too much space in the wrong place or too little? And until that page feels rock solid. The stage itself. So this is beautiful. It could, by the way, Sam, since it happens to be strong and horizontal, it could possibly be used for one of the things that bugs me most on this otherwise beautiful image. The top of the page is just starving. I mean, there's this massive gap that's not a very strong shape, so it doesn't read as negative like this one does, this space. But this really doesn't. So it's like, this is the biggest problem so far. So I'm kind of thinking, what about making this plane much bigger? So it could just really use some of this space and use the flag too to kind of activate this entire area. And this that might give you another design opportunity. It would break up some of the equal scale. Look, in all fairness, the picnickers are larger and the Eiffel Tower is even larger. So you have more scale at work than many that we've seen. But it almost feels like two separate illustrations, like the whole left side is a set, and then the right side is a different page. And I think there's so many good drawings here that you can get a lot more mileage out of how they treat each other. So right now it's all about moving them around. And I got to say one last thing that's harder to talk about. So if the plane and all these other elements are that strong, then you're going to have to buy some time to just work on the figures.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, 'cause right now, and it's not just that the heads are incomplete. It's the bodies they've got that they're still in that vague place. But listen, you showed me so much elsewhere what you can do that I'm not at all worried. But those are the two hits for you, really. It's all design and position, and then some time on the figures.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. I want to peek to see how many more we have left to make sure I don't put people to sleep too early. I don't mind doing that at the end. I want to spend a few more minutes, just go a little further, and I promise you all we're going to take a break. By the way, I don't know if I'm going to pull this off, but I want to also add some new skills today. So it's a combined day. It's not just critique. So that's one reason I'm being rather brief. At least I think I'm being brief. Listen, I want to say whoever handed this in, I probably shouldn't accept it because it's named wrong. I've never given a project that would be named like that. So I'm going to take a peek just to see. This looks like probably the last project, so I'm going to ignore it. And I apologize for that. It's clearly not this project, so I don't want to take people's time on it. But I do want to say to everybody, please be uptight about following the instructions on the handouts. Just that box is there as your friend. I don't have time to tell you, but I made the mistake when I was young about ignoring specs, the specifics on a couple of large scale projects and almost killed myself professionally, by ignoring, instructions that were actually more essential than I realized, so you want to be careful. All right. So this artist is clearly doing their thinking first, right? Which makes a lot of sense. I'm sure they had a sketch, Tamantha, and then went into the digital place. And if from the looks of it, there's a lot of closed shapes, which is going to mean it's going to be very easy to apply color because closed shapes work that way. So we see the eggs and all the accoutrements of cooking eggs. We got a very graphic image of the fire of the burner on the stove, which is kind of interesting. And the oil's making an interesting kind of shape in the jar as it pours out of the oil bottle. In black and white, that looks a little confusing, but I bet in color it's going to be very clear. And it creates a diagonal, which is sort of interesting because it helped my eye flow up to the egg that's being broken. here. So it's not particularly equal. It's actually taking me for a bit of a ride. When the eggs get dropped into the pan, I got an aerial view, very circular top view of the pan, and then back to a side view where the lid's been put on. And clearly cooked, now opened, where we finally see the salt and pepper applied down to the final frame. So, there's a couple things I want to say about this one. First off, Samantha, where are you? Just my effort. So, it's mapped out, makes perfect sense. I think anybody in any country in the world is going to be able to read it, so to speak. It's a visual language of that's clearly displayed. It'll be fun to see how you travel with color, how you treat it by next week. The other thing I'd say is there's so much line here. Again, it's only the 6th class, but we really just have not gotten down to really talking up line, because there's so much we could do with line in Adobe Illustrator. Just too many options. I'm going to give you a peek at a couple quickly, right? Because I think they may have great value for you and for others. But again, it's going to be about color and line, and then we'll see, because in terms of design, it's got a lot going for it. A few things worrying me a bit, like the salt and pepper in the air is cool, except for that they're so close to the bottom of the burner that this is starting to feel like one drawing.
Yeah,
So
I'm
you might
definitely
want
gonna
to
play with the scale a little bit more.
scale, and what needs to be moved.
And
Some things
background.
feel so sure of where there are, and other things less. But I see you got a lot of potential here. I want to show you a quick thing though. So let me just get out of this, because I want to. So this is a PDF. I've been asking for Adobe Illustrator files, so I'm kind of hoping it'll let me open this in Illustrator. They both Illustrator is one of the only programs that'll let me work on PDFs, but it's all about how the PDF was made. So, but in the future, again, please try to give me .ai Adobe Illustrator files. A few of you gave me PDFs. I don't mind them as backup copies. So a couple people had upside down images that last week,
Yeah, I
and it
tend to
wasn't their
save
fault.
everything like that.
Right. The thing is, the PDFs are going to cause you trouble in some areas of Illustrator. Like I used to do the same, and then it just wound up being too frustrating. It caused other problems that we can't go into today. But I am going to see, so that if you're used to doing that, then that means you know what you're doing. It'll probably let me open it. It's interesting the relationship Illustrator has to portable document format, that it recognizes the anchors. So I'm unlocking everything because I'm going to make a very general point. So I'm going to give you guys a peek at something. I'm going to the window menu, and I'm going to this feature called brushes. But really, it's not these brushes that I care that much about, and especially not now. It's this little button in the bottom left, where the brush libraries live. So I'm going to click on the libraries to show you how many categories there are. But under artistic are some that might be interesting for this particular project. So I opened up window menu and went to brushes. I'm getting a peek at this lower left button here that opens libraries. And now I'm going artistic. And I think I want to show you calligraphic first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up a bit. And I'm going to select everything and try a brush. And that's obviously way too big. So I have to get one more thing out from the window menu, stroke. And it's 0.5, it's 1 point. You think, wow, why does it look so thick? I'm going to make it 1/4 of a point. So I'm not saying this is better. I'm just saying it's different, right? Like this one happens to look great with this particular brush. Right, so that's kind of an interesting option. But there are other brushes here, like some of them are maybe too weird for this project. Let's find out. So here's one. Again, if it looks thick, I could even go under a point. That's too little. So maybe. It's got a very different character, doesn't it? Suddenly it's got this hand-drawn kind of vibe. So, one thing I do want to say to you, Samantha, specifically is I'm definitely not picking a look for you because you could do that for yourself much better than I could, right? I'm just saying that when you do use line a lot, then we start getting concerned with what kind of line. So there's a lot of potential in this one. I'm looking forward to see where we got. Let's do one more and then take that break. Sarah also gave me a PDF, so I'm not complaining. Just now, they're working.
When I tried to turn it in
Yeah.
as an Adobe file,
hmm
it kept going vertical instead of horizontal.
What is up with that? You're not alone.
Yeah, so I didn't know how to fix it, so I just turned it as a PDF.
So what's weird? I downloaded a few people who had the same problem, and moved it around on my computer. I even did save as, so it would think it was a new file. And the minute I uploaded to Google Drive, it also did the same thing. And
Yeah,
it's
I've heard that too.
PDFs don't do it. So what I've been doing lately, if I'm in the same situation as you, is I hand in both the Illustrator and the PDF.
Yeah, I can turn that.
The only issue I've had with the PDFs in the last couple of years are font issues, because it's supposed to embed the font. So people get lazy, they forget about font outlines, but then often they don't embed the font. And then, you deliver it and you wind up getting the wrong font on the other end. So I'm a little shy of PDFs lately, but let's not concern ourselves with it. This is the last one. We're going to take a break after this. So, it's just so strong. This is one of these that like follows a lot of the rules that I'm talking about, but it also breaks a bunch of the rules that I'm talking about. And I just want to say, break rules. Know the rules, try the rules, then break the rules, and then find out what really has meaning. I could care less about rules. The only reason I learned them is they often represent real patterns. And gives me insight and saves me time because the rules came from patterns, but patterns are not always consistent. I mean, in this case, what I'm talking about is the amount of repetition. There's so much repetition that you would think, man, doesn't she need to do something more to break it up? I don't think so on this one. I think the elements she has are so strong that I just don't really need for it to be broken up. Like, for one, she's got this pen that's virtually on the same diagonal in every single image. So there's 1, 2, 3, there's 6 pens. So I got this weird kind of sideways rhythm that's going through all these ovals. It's very geometric exercise, really. This thing's made of circles, a traveling line, like Pac-Man might follow, but very geometric, and these diagonals that just keep showing up. It's very musical. It's like setting up a drum machine or something. And I think one of the reasons that it works is the colors are it's got a marriage of certainty and subtlety. So between the two, I'm really very satisfied. Sometimes you eat something, it's like, oh, crunchy out the outside, and you're surprised it's got a different quality on the inside. This is sort of like that. Very bold, dark pen, super dark eyebrow, super dark background, but then this really subtle gradient eyelid. And at first I had no idea what was going on. It's like, why is she drawing on this person's eyelid? And I thought, oh my God, she's plucking out an eyelash. And then I realized what was going on, that she's drawing this shape. And I have to confess, being kind of makeup ignorant, I thought to myself, do people do this? Is this a thing people do? Sarah, where are you? Can you wave at me? There you are. Do people do this? Is this a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing.
It is a thing. My kid's gonna laugh at me. She always looks at these. She's your average age, and she always finds it funny when I don't know things that everybody else knows. I really like the drawing. I learned something. So really, maybe I get it. I think it's very strong. You really narrowed down your terms and made them work for you.
Thank you.
Sarah, I want to say something to you, just commercial. It's when you're out of school, the deadlines, are often fierce, and you're often in situations where there's no such thing as late work. That's just that. So when you could come up with a simple solution that really works, something where you get to repeat an image and just make small changes because the first one was so good, or the design is so good, you kind of win. Somebody else is doing something very, you guys know those books, Where the Wild Things Are? Anybody? Sendak, Maurice Sendak. He was really one of the best children's book illustrators out there. And in some of his books, they're so work intensive. There's so much work. He clearly didn't have deadlines. He was the boss. You wouldn't be doing that in an ad agency. Anyway, this works really well. I really don't have a lot to add to it. The only thing that occurs to me a little bit is, gee, I kind of feel like I need the lower lid to be in those drawings, because it does feel a little bit like those poor butterflies that people pin into books. Makes you cringe when you see eyelids that way. But I say, I don't think it would hurt you. You could probably even repeat the upper lid, flip it over and play with it to get what you want. But it just feels too dismembered. You know what I mean? To cut off.
Yeah.
I think it's looking great other than that.
Thank you.
Folks, listen, I want to say a word or two before we break, and then we're going to take ourselves a break. I also want to get a quick look at my handout while you're here, so we could see where we have more to look at of your peers' work, of course. I'm very pleased so far. I really feel like people come a far way from the early weeks. I'm seeing confidence grow in the work. Let me just get a quick look. So we have a lot to do. The break's going to have to be short. It's 4:31. I want to start at 4:45, right? My greedy side wants to steal your break from you, but that's just not fair. So I won't do it, but it does have to be short. Critique days are the hardest for us, really, because they take a lot of time. So 4:45, everybody be back, okay? All right, I'll see you exactly 4:45. Hello again. Let's give everybody a minute to settle back in. 15 minutes is so fast. Like that. It's over. All right, I'm waiting for more faces to come to life before we move forward. All right, let's see. All right, we're looking at Sarah's. Isn't this interesting? I mean, honestly, it just has a very different kind of character to it that I just find it, really off the bat. I mean, the first thing I'd say, it's got some charm to it. It's got some automatic charisma. Rachel, where are you? Help me. You know I'm slow with this kind
Hi.
There you are. Hi. It really, really looks good. It's really got a lot of personality going. The whole hexagonal approach, she went with the six-sided frame instead of the rectangles that have kind of dominated the class, is one thing. She's also went with a very specific kind of palette where the first row is these pale variations on green, and the second are these variations on grays or highly neutral colors.
Yeah, for the last one, I think I want to change it though because it's kind of hard to tell, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. It got a little sleepy because the background and the lines themselves are so close in tone. It's one thing that I was talking about somebody's work earlier today when I said, if you saw it in a black and white photo, everything would turn such and such a gray. I think that's a very useful way to look at illustration. Look, by the way, I love color and I love all games of color, and we could talk a lot about ways colors can stimulate the eye. But when it comes to communication design, we always need a certain amount of clarity. If things get very subtle, it gets very atmospheric. Since Rachel brought it up, that last frame, it's like dusk. It's like it's heading into the night. And again, if you were doing a storyline and you wanted that vibe of things going into the evening, close tones can work. But for something like this, popping tones work even better. But I do want to say something about the line because, everybody heard me talk today about line. I gave Tamantha a peek at a couple of line options. So if you look at this one, if you imagine the same drawing with 1 point constant lines, lines right out of the can, as they like to say, it would have so much less charisma than it has right now. These look like brushstrokes. It's like a calligrapher's brushstroke.
Yeah, I mainly use the pen tool.
The pen tool, really. And so those lines, like these beautiful swooping lines that are narrow on one end and thicker in the middle, how did you do that?
I don't really know exactly, but
That's such an artist answer, by the way, because you know that's fine. She tried, kept trying stuff, I imagine, and then something worked. You know, so we're definitely going to be focusing on this. You know, especially since you chose not to use fills very much. Admittedly, you do have the band around the bowl, for example. It's very line based. The whole idea that you found a line with personality really works rather than that kind of really dry computer looking line that we so often see. You surprised me a little bit saying it was the pen tool because the pen tool is usually like a precision kind of tool. Did you mean that and not the paintbrush or the pencil?
oh no, I think that's what I meant instead. Sorry.
Because it
Yeah.
looks like the paintbrush and well used. This is a case where not using the fills work really well in your favor. The colors carried by the backgrounds. The little shadows were a nice touch. Again, more brush you could see. She just sort of brushed. It's very much about like a casual and confident way of drawing. I like it a lot. Let's see if I understand it though. So I could see that there's a measuring cup and a bag of something, which I typically guess was flour. And this looks to me like a salt shaker. It things are mixed in the bowl. Then it looks like something's put over the top of the bowl. Now, don't correct me yet, right? And then this, I'm imagining, is coming out of the bowl when it's baked and then displayed. So I just want to ask you something about the steps, Rachel. So those three ingredients, is it flour in the bag? And what's in this small bowl? Is that pouring over? Is that a spill going on?
Yeah, it's supposed to be dry yeast,
Gotcha. And what's in the shaker?
salt.
And you're saying that all three of those things are in the bowl already in the second frame.
Yeah.
So you kind of, I'm hoping you're guessing what I'm saying. You know, that's a leap, basically, that you're saying all the ingredients go in at once. So what I'm trying to say is if this was an instruction manual, it may be skipping steps. You know, we're used to seeing the ingredients laid out, but we're told when to put them in. And if they go in at once, we usually get a visual for that. So I was a little unsure. Let me ask you about this one. Is that something wrapped over the top of the bowl?
Yeah, it's like a cloth.
Is that what bakers call proving? Is that proving? I
I don't
watched the British Bake Off, so I know. No, I know nothing about baking, but all right. And then it's actually taken out, baked. So tell me what's going on in the last frame.
So, I mean, like I mentioned before, it's kind of hard to tell with the darker color, but it's supposed to be like the final product. Like it's now like sliced. The bread is like on a like wooden cutting board.
So this is what I want to say to you. I like a lot about this. I really like the style. It's got a confident style. It's like, by the way, when it comes to cooking stuff, some of the best illustrators out there are working in for cookbooks right now. It's gotten so popular between the shows on TV that are often hiring illustrators, as well as the cookbooks. And this style looks like it could maintain an entire book. So that's a big plus for me. It's simple, it's clear, it's playful, it's charismatic. I like what you did with color. I like the unusual design idea. I like all of that. I'm not totally clear on the steps though. So I wish that was a little clearer. And surely, even if the color was better on the last frame, I'm not sure I'd understand it anyway. So at a minimum, I'd like you to clarify this, not just color, but probably the drawing for next week. And then if you could find a way to make the steps clearer, uh, I would appreciate that because it's not crystal clear. But mostly, this is my biggest complaint. I feel like, gee, you know, and it's like, given your design, to just put in a step would be a challenge. You know, I realize. Though, if there was 4 hexagons in the top row that were smaller and 3 in the bottom, I think it would look pretty great. The negative shape between the 4 on top and the 3 on bottom would create a kind of zigzag that would probably look fantastic. So I have
Yeah.
to say though, right?
I just fear like if I put in an extra two, like I'd have to kind of like sacrifice the size of the other like images and it like might be like harder to see or something like that.
And that makes me nervous too. But I have to be honest with you, since this is a communication design project, that is a gap. It looks so damn good that I'm tempted to say fine, fine, but it isn't actually. So I would know, I would figure out how to solve it. I'm not sure if you need to. I mean, maybe I'm okay with the idea that this is, you're not showing me that I take it out, because, that's a bit of an of course moment. So maybe all I really need is one more frame here, to show me what's going on between these two. I don't know. Like I said, style's looking great, design's looking great, but if you were working for a publisher, the number one thing that they would ask all the time is it communicating what we need? So that would be the next step. So they're very promising though, I have to say. So, this one here, there are frames that are, way out ahead of the others, but a lot of it just feels very, very simplistic at this stage, really kind of rather early in its development. So, a lot has to be done to bring this to life. This is by far the most interesting frame for me because I do understand exactly what's going on. This person's making very specific kind of bread, looks like a challah bread. And, I get what's going on. I see that 3 bands are coming out, that the roller helped create these 3, and here they're being braided together. Here, an egg's being dropped on it. It's going to give it a cool surface. The oven's the stand-in for it's gone in the oven. Here, it looks like it's sticking out of a bowl, which may be on display. So what I would say to this artist right here is you're going to need to play more. Either take your strokes out where they're not necessary, or see if you could find how to make them more interesting about that. But it's definitely the biggest issue here is scale and design, really. Look, simple drawings, some of them are more interesting, but the steps are clear as a bell. This one just needs a little of the magic brought to the table. I'm kind of wondering what scale would do, meaning some of these things being much bigger than they are. Try to activate the space and then moving them around and seeing how the positions go. So right now, maybe a background. I really think this one just needs to play. Now that it's mapped out, it really needs to show some kind of play. There's no, not enough love in it just yet, to be blunt. I just got lost. Give me 1 second here. Okay, there we go. So, it's, this is a quirky thing. Like the color is super attractive. Even the drawing of the camera is also really attractive. So, I could see that this could develop into something that's kind of a lot of fun. Develop being a very bad pun. But I'm trying to understand it completely. So I see that the lens is coming out, and maybe this is the way to turn to release the photo. Basically, I like the look of the camera. I like the colors a lot. This one's making a really successful big deal out of not having strokes. Look how great the color feels because there's no outlines. So I keep saying the same thing. You either don't use lines or use them well, play with them until they sing for you. So I really like that. It's just, for one, it's 4 steps. I know it's only a draft. So I just want to talk to the artist for a moment about it. Where are you, Laura? So Laura, those are great ingredients. Are there more steps that we're just waiting on because it's a draft?
Yes.
Gotcha. So how many steps is it going to be total?
6.
6. So are we gonna? It's a Polaroid camera, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. So again, that's what my main concern is right now. I love the look. Keep the color, keep the style, keep all of that. Get the other shapes in so that you can start thinking about the design. We all think in different order on this project. Some people went for design elements early, thinking whole page thinking. Other people were thinking separate drawings so they can get their story told, so to speak. They're both viable, but in the end, we need both. The story's got to be told, the characters have got to be right, the camera, whatever, and then the design. Sometimes for me, I find it a lot of fun taking a drawing where all the parts are already there and then figuring out how to move them and scale them and find the magic. It's got a lot of promise. Too early for me to offer you anything more though, Laura, than that, to be honest. So some nice stuff going though. I'm very curious to see how it plays out. Guys, I really want you to take a hard look at this one. I got to look at it earlier today, and it's got to have the most nerve of any of these that I've seen. And guys, look, I know 3-hour classes are hard. I know some of you have mastered how to keep yourself upright when you're sleeping inside. very convincing postures. I'm not kidding. I really do sympathize. But I took 6-hour classes in school and 8-hour classes in school, for real, at the School of Visual Arts. This is not that huge. I know you're working very hard, but wake up. All right. Anyway, I think this is beautiful. I really, Sean, I got a few things to tell you though that I need from you, but I do want to point out, as I often do, what I like the best. For one, I really wish you could work in a world where there was never a bleed. There was never a need to be concerned with how the edges were going to be treated. And it's true, there are projects where that's not a concern. That the way it's going to be printed and how it's going to be done, you could draw right up to the edge. This one here had a 1/2 inch margin warning. So I want to tell you where I think you're safe margin wise and where you're not, right? So if you look on the right side, even though the ovals go right to the edge of the page, so what? The 1/2 inch margin's probably about here. So the question is, if that was white outside the margin, would it still look good? I bet it would. But on the bottom, I'd lose part of this pumpkin, and that would just be a disaster, and part of the handle of the knife. This pumpkin could probably handle it, because maybe it would still look good with the outside edge, and this one would just need to be moved over. So since a 1/2 inch margin was a requirement, you got a bit of a challenge in front of you. And Sean, if I could, I would say forget about it, because I love this page. I don't really want you to have to do that, but that's not reality. And part of my job is to share with everybody what the reality is going to be. When the art director has certain specs for you, you must do this. It's because of something that she's dealing with. She knows the way it's all going to fit together, and is asking you as the artist to work within that range. But I gotta say, it's just so much fun. The way you're treating the white on the page is perfect. Man, I wouldn't want you to replace that white with any color of the rainbow, or even a gradient, because it's fresh. It brings all this air. And part of it is because he's got blacks nearby, which are going to pump up the whites a lot. He's got high contrast, as well as all these bright, high chroma colors, orange being the star of the show. But a symphony of warm colors, orange, and then a redder vermilion, and then all the way into red itself, and then into this, I don't even know what to call it, kind of crimson-like color. So there's a number of reds to go with the orange. Let's follow the path too, because he kind of created a path almost like a children's game board, where we're kind of swooping around the place. So we see all the parts, including a lighter. We're going down to the top of the pumpkin. And, I got to confess, it took me a minute or two, well, half a minute or so, really, to understand that was the top of a pumpkin. But once you see it, you just see it, clear as a bell. So it's not sure that it needs to change. I mean, pumpkins are weird. It's just like some of them are more symmetrical, kind of expected pumpkins, and then others are more dramatic, kind of wild gourd shapes. So it's a slight inconsistency. And frankly, if you were going to publish it, a lot of art directors would make you change it. I'm not sure that I would, though, just because I like those shapes so much, and people will get it. You just have these, particularly these two, that are the eccentric looking ones, and the others are more conservative. All the same, let's just follow the path for a minute. So it comes down, wraps back up, and I'm glad it's not just the arrow. I kind of like that the knife is also kind of leaning to the right, gives this arrow a little support on its way up. This is kind of an interesting moment because the spoon is setting me this way, even though I know I'm supposed to follow the arrows. Doesn't really bother me. I just want to point out that sometimes you want to avoid that. I think this one's working somehow. Anyway, the arrow's so strong. I swoop around here. This is really sure because it comes zigzags along, then follows the knife, and then I'm finally at this arrow, but nothing's contradicting the path I should take. So it's very self-confident. Come around this kind of wonderfully drawn candle, an equally wonderful lighter. Is very much prepared for what's coming up in this class. And then finally the candle goes inside. His head, his scalp is replaced, and we're at the finished illuminated pumpkin. So, I just like this so much, Sean, that I have to ask you to deal with the margin issue. I don't want you to hide the outside. You can keep unimportant stuff out there, but don't let anything important part of the pumpkin's face or anything like that to be cut off. You got scale, a lot more than most people. God, look at the size of this candle. And we know it's the same as this candle. That's just so visually interesting. And he's got all kinds of geometries going on, zigzag mouth and fresh color. I mean, it's really waiting for publishing. Just a couple little issues.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You know what really is funny? Second week, teacher gives you advice you like. Everybody's like, yeah, I'm doing it now, or I'm going to do it tonight. A few weeks later, it's like, good idea, but by the end, everyone's going to be like passing out, like, no more ideas, please. Anyway, good work. This one definitely needs a lot of love. It's got some moments that for me are the most promising. I kind of quite like the tea kettle, but it's like right now it's in a kind of unloved state. I see what's going on though. Looks like there's a filter in the jar waiting, and I've got the kettle and I've got the bag of coffee clearly laid out. Can't miss what it is. I see exactly what's going on as they're being put together. I don't have to narrate these. We all see what it is and arriving at the cup. But something's got to be done to this one so that it's more interesting to look at. And there's almost too many choices. I just, it's all the same things we've been talking about all day. Are the spaces right? For example, do we really want such a large space between these frames? Do we want the frames at all? And if we do want the frames, maybe they should have color or more interesting frames. Right now, these very generic boxes with, not particularly exciting things inside. The gradients help giving me some dimension. The story gets told. I think right now, Hibby, it's going to be about, you're going to have to be more playful. You're going to have to take some chances. It's not going to make anyone want to look at it. It's communicating, but there's no love yet. So, I'm going to be really clear to you guys. I don't want to take people's time talking too much about the work that's super early in its development. I realize we're all just trying really hard to manage time. But it sometimes is excruciating for the artist. They already know the work's not cooked, but it's on time and the deadline's a week away. Did I skip anybody? So folks, it's a long critique, right? Rather exhausting. We're going to switch into just a little bit of learning, a little review, because I want to upgrade some things involving the pen tool. So we're all going to get busy in a couple minutes. I just want to say one last thing about the critiques, because in this particular class, there's 4 lighter draft critiques and 4 intense finished work critiques, together equaling maybe 10 hours of class, 11 hours of class over the whole semester. The whole idea is to glean what you can from each other's work when you see something that you really like, or you see something you don't like, but you know how to fix it. So that's just as stimulating. It's really a way for us to be stimulated in all the ways necessary. Today we talked about impact, and some had a lot of impact, some had none. We talked a lot about making the point, communicating all the steps. Some with impact didn't necessarily communicate the steps, some the other way around. Those are the 2 main themes though, impact and communication. And the first one is what we say usually when we mean design. If the design's hungry, it doesn't have impact. So we want to learn what our bag of tricks is, not to sound insulting. Line, what kind of line? Space, what shape is the space? Color, is it doing its job? And nothing's taken for granted. I want to say quickly before we try out our technique, one of my teachers was named Art Spiegelman. Do any of you guys like graphic novels? Any graphic novel readers? Nobody? A little bit, Sean? You ever hear the one called Mouse, M-A-U-S?
Yes, I've read Mouse.
Right? Mouse won the Pulitzer Prize. Only 2 cartoonists ever won the Pulitzer Prize. The guy who drew Mouse was my teacher, and he kicked my ass. So if you ever think I'm harsh, you should take a class with Art Spiegelman. And you know, the thing was, he would say things like, "Nothing doesn't matter," and you know, that's a truism. When you make an image and this is your space, every single thing matters. Nothing's okay. You know, it's either on or it's not on. You know, so at some point, I'd like to show you some stories that from art is really an inspiring um, set of stories. Let's try something else though. So I'm going to ask everybody, if you didn't get today's assets, I'd like you to go get them now. I want to remind you that there's generally two ways to do that. And you just choose your preference. You know, you can go to your menu on the home page and choose, this is class 6. You can get the assets from here, just click that. Or if you're already looking at the handout, I'll generally put the assets here toward the top, then download today's assets. Or you can click this. Either which way, if you haven't gotten them, please get them now. Whether you're on Mac or Windows, we've been through this, so I'm not going to make it a long talk. It downloads to your downloads folder. So everyone has to get used to working with your own downloads folder. If you're on a Mac, I suggest you just come to the bottom of the browser and click on the name of the downloaded file in the lower left. Just because it opens the downloads folder for you, I just want to throw out all this. Actually, I'm just going to leave this. I have to clean up in here. On a Mac, so if you click the name after it's been downloaded, it opens downloads for you and it unzips the compressed file. I've been told it's rather similar on Windows. I just want to add, and I probably won't say this next week. I've had issues with working with zip files on Windows on some occasions. I don't think it would affect us as illustrators, but I teach animation also, and it really affects the animators who work on Windows. They have to extract the zip. So if you're on Windows, you might want to learn a little bit about that. You go to the zip, you'd right click on Windows, and you'll see extract or extract all. Ultimately, you want a folder. All right, put your folder where you like to work. I like to work on the desktop, so I'm dragging mine to the desktop. And now I'm going to the desktop and opening the folder. I want to point out something. This is tree bark. We might not get to this. I wanted to talk a little bit about how someone might use a photo or something for texture. You know, if I drew a tree, could I fill it with this? And I could. If we don't get it today, I'm going to bump it to later, but I'm definitely going to share it with you. I want to also, though, show you what else is in here. This is a mask. So we drew. Did we draw the umbrella together last week? We did, right? So you recognize this. This is that same umbrella, right? I copied it a few times and then put it in an oval. That's masking, and we'll see if we can get there again. I squeezed in a little bit more than we might be able to get to. This is mostly case I didn't feel ready. I think I want to try a bigger challenge than these. But by the way, anyone who wants to learn the pen tool, take this one seriously. All right, you're going to be able to follow the same steps as last week, which are similar to the steps we're going to take in a couple minutes. But where I want to get is actually to this. Well, this is more of a real world situation. You know, somebody's done these drawings, they don't have vector skills, they need somebody to do an Illustrator version. Why? Well, they need to be able to scale them to any size, which they can't do with these. This is a scan of someone's drawing, so it would have to be done in Illustrator. So it's infinitely scalable to any size. Why else? They want to change the color for all these different outfits, different kinds of model. So they also, Illustrator would be by far better than Photoshop. So there's a lot of reasons, right? So I'm gonna, my goal is to get us to try to draw one of these, or at least part of one today. Before we do that, let's just do some pen tool warm up. All right, could everybody join me by going to Illustrator? I'm going to ask you to go to the File menu and choose New. And really, we just need an upright letter size page, right? So that's 8.5 inches by 11 inches, and it's upright. And that's all that we need. Just click Create. I want to go over something kind of quickly. Can everyone turn on their rulers? By the way, if you opened up a different size page, I think it's fine, really. This will match the figures closest, but other sizes are all right. So everyone turn on your rulers. One way is going to the view menu. Better way is Command R on a Mac or Control R on Windows. And the only reason I want you to do this is I want you to press on that top ruler and drag a guide down. Now, I'm going to stop using those guides soon. I've been doing things like this recently, but I want people to get to the stage where you don't even need the guide. I want to remind you of two exercises. I want to do very fast versions of them, right? One was the continuous curve. So there's no angles. It's a constant loop. Hey, did we make a ribbon together last week? So that's what I'm talking about, right? We made two continuous curves and built it into a ribbon. The other one was the discontinuous curve, where the curve doesn't continue. Sometimes it makes an angle because it goes off in a different direction. And that was much harder, right? To draw those figures, you're going to need both. Hang on 1 second here. You're going to need both. So let's warm up a bit with a continuous curve. All right. I always ask you to click the white arrow, so your command key or control key will let you do white arrow tricks later with the pen tool. So I'm going to click the white arrow and go right to the pen tool. I think I should take more advantage of that trick to prove to you its value, but it's weird. Click the white arrow, click the pen tool. But then I'd like you to look at the bottom of the toolbar to check on your colors. It's easiest to use this tool with the fill turned off. So if you bring your fill box to the front, here I am at the bottom of my toolbar. If you bring the fill box to the front, you could click color of none right beneath it. So now you know you're not going to get a fill. And behind it, here's the stroke. I could click it if it's wrong, but I'm okay with a black stroke. Basically, I'm saying you want ink for lines, but you don't want anything else. So the continuous curve was a lot of press and drag. Press and drag, press and drag. Didn't really involve any shortcuts. And it looked like this. I press and drag up, but this time I want to make it look a little different than I've done the last few weeks. I'm going to make a small curve and I'm going to make it tilted. So when I move over, you could see what that's already doing, right? It's instructing the curve to be shallow. I'm going to move to the right and I'm going to press and drag. I'm not going to release. I'm going to press and drag and make a mirror image of that handle. The biggest mistake is to click, right? Because then you're kind of lost. The next line's not going to be a curve no matter what you do, right? So then you press and drag up. The trick with continuous curves is remembering to alternate. I just went up. I know it's at an angle, but I'm calling it up. And so now I go down. I move over, I press and drag up. But I'm always watching the tail of the handle as well as the head. In this case, the tail is letting me know if I'm symmetrical. It looks like a mirror image of its partner on the left. But I went up, so this one goes down. Now, if they're ever too close, you hold down Command and move them. Right? That's why we click the white arrow, so you can do that. So at any point, you could hold down Command on a Mac or Control on Windows, click a curve you don't like. You could change the handles if you need to, or you can move the anchors. And when you let go of Command, it remembers where you were, so you could continue. I want to add one last little thing about that. When you're done, you need to deselect the line. Otherwise, it thinks you're still going. So how do you deselect it? Hold down Command again. It is a selection tool, and just click off. We've done that a bunch of times, and we may do it a couple times more. I want you to do one more, just like that one. So if you deselected it, you could drag down another guide unless you feel ready to do it without guides. And again, you press, and if you're dragging up the first time, the next time you drag down. And the next time you drag up. And I'm not looking at the other curve. This is an independent one. Each time you alternate, but you watch those lines sprout out. And whenever you're done, you hold down Command and click off. I hope you find that one easy, and if not, at least manageable. It may take practice for some. Some of you have already mastered it. There's a lot in nature made of continuous curves. A lot of things that we like to look at as humans, because we have a lot of continuous curves. On our bodies, we make cars that do, sports cars especially, things that imitate those kind of fluid lines. Let's do a discontinuous curve because it's harder. Before we do it though, it adds a shortcut. I was just using Command on my Mac to find anchors and handles. But on the next exercise, I'm going to use a lot of the Option key. And if I was on Windows, I'd be using a lot of Alt. So here it goes. I'm going to drag down another guide. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit. It's easier for people to see. And this time, the first curve is similar. And I'm on a narrow page, so I'm not going to go too far. First curve, you make the kind of curve you want. I'm going to leave that up to you. I would like it to be relatively symmetrical, though. But here's the problem. This handle is now saying I'm going to go down. It thinks I'm going to make another continuous curve, but that's not what I want. I want it to be a mountain next to it. So a bunch like the letter M. That means I have to move this handle. I want to go over the two methods from last week. The first method you learned is move the handle by holding down Option on the Mac or Alt on Windows and put it where it ought to go. And this is what I'm after. I'm telling the next curve to go back up. So really, this just gives directions to the curve. The handle tells the curve roughly where it's going to go. And with the next handle, it's precisely, it's exact. So, all right, I brought it up. And if you missed it, let me just do that again. The first curve was no different than what we've been doing for a while. One up, one down. But here's the change. I hold down Option on a Mac, bring this up, and since that's going up, I could move over here to pull it down. I'm going to do it that way again. I'm holding down Option because it thinks I want to go underneath my guide, but I don't. So I hold down Option and say, no, 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 no. Send it this way. Then I move over and I press and drag down. Let's do a few like that. Just keep going across the page. So this is discontinuous. I want to be very blunt. Between this and the continuous curve, that's most of nature. You know, not so many straight lines in nature after all. Yields are easy anyway. So each time you hold down Option and you move on. And whenever you feel ready, remember to deselect, right? That's back to the Command key. Click off. Be honest with me. How many of you guys feel like you got the hang of the discontinuous curve? Can you give me some of these? Or these? Or these? Even these? Okay. All right, fair, fair. Look, I'm the tour guide of this show, and I got to tell you, I got this last in my class. I really did. But the day I got it, it was like the light bulb scene, bing, and I swear I just lived it. There was a sudden turn where I was like, oh, that's what I've been missing, and so you might have to clock in some hours. Now, I want to show you the other method though, because if you were like this or even like this, maybe you just need the other method for the discontinuous curve. So let's try that one out before we draw the figure. Can you add another guide for yourself? So I am going to make something that looks just like the last set of hills. I'm just going to do it differently. The first one is the same on all the systems I've shown you. This, if it goes up, the next one goes down. The question is always about the second curve, right? That's where push comes to shove. Last week, I taught you a method that helped you not have to drag the handle. You could even ignore it completely. I called it the sprout method. And what I like about the sprout method, and here I go, is you hold down Option and you sprout a new handle right out of the anchor. And that's easier for lots of reasons. If this one was way down here, it would be really hard to move. Right? That'd be a big pain, and that'd just be a pain. So what I could do instead is hold down Option, not move it, just sprout a new one. The curve knows that you're talking about the next curve. I find this one really intuitive, and it is my own personal favorite method. So when I drag the next one down, I like, okay, I got to move that handle somehow. I could use the sprout method. The sprout comes out of the anchor. Notice how the anchor is square and the handles are round. If you want to try the sprout method, you hold down Option or Alt, but you don't move the handle. You go right to the square anchor, press and drag and tell it where you want it to go. And then you just let go of Option. So the discontinuous curve is all about Option. It's all about whether you drag handles around. Strikes me as kind of clumsy, really. Then move on, or whether you sprout them instead. Last week I said one of the reasons I like it is because it helps me be more intuitive. What if I wanted a really wacky shape? You know, I wanted this to look like a half moon, right? I'd hold down Option and I'd go this way. You know, so I have a lot of freedom as long as I could imagine what I'm doing. The sprout method might be a little more intuitive. I'm saying, you know, no, don't go there, go up this way. And that's not going to be part of the drawing. It's going to be an instruction to the drawing, trying to describe it. Every curve's made of two handles. I'm going to say something for anyone who's feeling ready for another bit of information. You know, basically, I'm trying to force you to use Command and Option if you're on a Mac, or Control and Alt if you're on Windows. And one of the challenges is going to be, when do I need which one? You know, well, I'm going to go over it. Command doesn't change directions. So anything you need to do that doesn't change directions, you could still hold down Command or Control. I'm not changing directions, so I'm holding down Command. I'm still not changing directions. I'm just altering curves, so I'm still holding down Command. It's just when you want to change directions that you have to use Option or Alt. Now I'm heading this way. Right? So it really kind of depends what you're after. But when there's a lot of direction changing going on, I'm still getting these perfectly smooth lines. So one thing that's going to be a little confusing is, which shortcut do you need? If it's a change directions thing, Option or Alt. If it's just adjusting, I'm adjusting now, it's Command or Control. Oops, that was not very controlled because I left something out. You do have to hold down Option or Alt when you close the object, because if you don't, it messes up your earlier work. I'm going to hold down Option on my Mac now and it'll let me do it. You know, one thing that's hard about sharing this information is it's hard to frame questions. Like, I'm sure some of you have questions, you know, it's not, you get in there, but not quite, and just don't know what to ask. Does anybody have a question that they could formulate for me? It's a strange language we have, right? Talking about this stuff. Let's try the figure. This is not a test, right? But I would say for anyone who feels ready to just let loose with this tool, stop with exercises and start drawing, it's this next exercise that you need. So could everybody open up another page? We only have a half an hour left, so we're going to be all right. And I definitely want a letter size this time. 8.5 wide, 8.5 inches, 11 inches tall. Let's click create. Now, to be able to do the next exercise, I have to review something very important. And it was easy, but it's worthy of review, and it is called place. Last week, we placed the seashell and the umbrella and this page of exercises that included little clues how long you needed to drag those handles. In the future, you're probably going to place your own drawings, especially if you sketch to size, like, oh, okay, this project's 10 by 10. I'm going to cut out a 10 by 10 piece of paper, sketch it. It'd be particularly easy to work with, but you're going to want to place it. So I want to go over that. Did everybody download the assets today? All right. You need your layers out before we do any place. So I'm going to the window menu and I'm looking for layers. Because we're going to put the image on layer 1 and then lock it. You do this with your sketches too, if you choose to, or your own photos. Somebody mentioned they were working with photos earlier, and I respected that a lot. The next project's going to involve a lot of use of photos. Unlock layers. All right, so let's do File menu, Place. This is the power tool right here. File menu, Place. And it says, where do you want to place that? Scan that photograph. So I want you to go to wherever you put it. Some of you left it in downloads. Some of you moved it elsewhere. I put it in the desktop. Today's folder is, hang on a second here. It's called Class 6 Assets. The one that I want is figures, but don't click the blue place button yet. I want to point something out. Before you choose anything, these features are gray. But as soon as you click an image, these important choices come to life. This is ultra important. Ultra. Your other teachers are going to ask for stuff like this, right? And it's kind of on me to make sure you're ready, right? It's all about link. So I wanted to say a couple words about link. If you only have 1 or 2 images, I suggest not clicking link. What that will do is when you bring in those figures or that sketch, they're going to stay in that Illustrator document. When you save your Illustrator document, you could email it to a friend, teacher, art director, and the scan is part of it. You can't lose it. But if you do click link, I'm asking you not to. But if you do, you have to send a copy of that photo also. So if there's 10 photos there, right, you'd have to send all 10 photos and the Illustrator file if link is on. I don't want to make a big speech, but here's the lowdown. If you don't have link on and you bring in 10 images, the Illustrator file gets very heavy. The file size gets too heavy and it slows down your computer. It proves to be impractical. So if there's a lot of images, we have to deal with linking and we're not ready yet. We might have to do that on the next project. This one is so light, let's just not check link. On a later date, I want to show you what's cool about link. For right now, I'm telling what's cool about not link or unlink. Could everyone click place now? So then you see a little fraction, and if there were 10 images, it would say 1/10, but there's only 1/1, and it's about the same size as your page. So I'd click in the top left corner to place it. Once you do that, you can get the black arrow if you want to move it. That's pretty easy. I just want to make sure. Did the image show up? Christine, it didn't show up. So you know where the download is, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to like unzip it, but it won't. It's showing up as like an unclickable option in my in the downloads folder.
Just curious, are you on Windows?
No, my Mac.
You're on a Mac. And when you double click the zip, it won't let you double click the zip?
I did. I mean, like, I'm fairly new to the computer, so it might be my error, but I double clicked it to unzip it, but I downloaded it a couple of times, so I'm gonna try to just stick it onto the desktop and.
Got it. You know, just because we're short for time, I'm not going to look at it with you now, but if you want, I could look at it with you right after class.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. So just remember, all this pen tool stuff is mostly the last 40 minutes of class in case you want to go to on the YouTube video, right? Okay. So next, and I could tell by your faces, some of you are already drawing, and I don't really mind that. I would be, but did you lock that layer, or are you drawing on that layer? Now, if you're drawing on that layer, I'm not saying that's all wrong, but it's kind of wrong, a little wrong, because it's going to be really hard to work with your drawing without moving the original around, right? So it makes a lot more sense to lock this layer. So that means right next to the eye, so here I am on my layer palette, right next to the eye, I click, and that padlock means even with the black arrow, I can't move anything. I can't draw, I can't move it. So that is safe. Right? I'm not going to rename it. I would like to rename it also. It says layer 1, kind of meaningless. I'm going to double click where it says layer 1, and I'm going to call it sketch. Being very methodical, and people are going to love you in the industry if you stick to this neat kind of way of working. You're out, the project doesn't stop, someone else is going to have to work on it, right? So I named it, I locked it. To be able to draw though, I need a fresh layer. So I'm going back to the layer palette, and on the bottom is the little plus sign. So I click it once. I don't think I'm going to name this one yet. Now, guys, listen. This is a big challenge. And if you're drawing already, oh, kind of okay, but I want to give you some warning. The goal would be that every shape you make can be filled with color later. No one's going to hire you for a color project if you can't make closed objects. So that means before you draw, you need a little strategy. And I want to tell you what I mean by that. If I'm drawing, say, this model in the middle, this drawing in the middle, right? I want to draw enclosed shapes. So what I mean by that is this. Her back is mostly closed, right? Here's one wall, let's call it an edge. This edge is actually inside the bathing suit. And then up her neck. This is a bit of a problem because the neck is open. And if I really want to fill this with one color, I'm just going to close it. There are other strategies, but that's the strategy I'm going to take, right? Now, you don't draw random lines because you won't be able to use color later. All right, I'm going to demonstrate, but I'm also going to open up the navigator to help me zoom in and out easily. And I highly recommend it. The window menu, alphabetical order, down to navigator. It helps you zoom and know where you are. I'm going to zoom in with my navigator. I got again from the window menu. I'm clicking this button here to zoom in, and then I'm pressing this red box to get it where I want. So this is really what I want to see. So I can be exact. All right, I click the white arrow once, I get the pen tool, then I check the colors. It's lucky that I did because I don't even have a stroke color. So I got the stroke box open. I could just click on black for my swatches, or I could work with these. I think I'm just going to get my swatches. So here's the stroke color, and I click black. I could draw with another color if I think that's going to be helpful. I'm going to click white, take the color out, just so it doesn't start hiding the drawing. I'm just going to work with lines. Just want to repeat. I know I repeated a lot. Click the white arrow, get the pen tool. Then this is what you want for color, no fill, but you do want a black stroke. Sometimes I'll click this little thing here. It gives me white and black, and then I'll just take the white out. All right, I'm going to do the back. If you're interested to see how I do it, watch closely. Just take a break and watch for a minute. So I'm coming down the neck, and I'm telling it to go down, and it's not a very big curve. And I'm going as far as I can go and pulling. Because if I make it curve, look how smooth the line gets. So I don't want a lot of anchors. I want as few as I can get. So I just want to repeat. I started here, and I came down a little. Then I went as far as I thought I can go, right up to here, because that's the edge of my shape. And I pull it till I see it shrink wrap that sketch. The problem is this handle's pointing way out into space, and I want to go down. And you can tell it's not going to let me. So I'm going to use the sprout method. I'm going to hold down Option and sprout a new handle right out of the anchor and say, come roughly this way. Slightly larger curve. Can I get all the way down here? I'm going to try it. So I'm going all the way down and I'm clicking and pulling. And I didn't quite get it, right? I got greedy, right? But it's close. So what can I do now? Well, I could hold down the Command key and readjust these. And now I'm pretty much right on it. That's why I clicked the white arrow before, so I could do that kind of thing. It knows where I'm at, but the handle's pointing the wrong way. The Command key let me adjust anchors and handles that don't need to change directions, but I have to change directions again. So again, Option on a Mac, Alt on Windows, and I'm going to come right out of here. I say, well, go this way. Not quite sure, maybe this way. Slightly larger than that. That's pretty intuitive, and it's just practice that's going to help. I could try to go halfway to make it easier. I could try to go all the way. Less anchors is smoother. I don't think one in the middle is going to hurt me. So I'm going to pull. Keep swiveling around, try to find the angle that I need. And if I can't get it just right, I'll get close. Stop. Hold down Command. And, figure out what needed to change. This one was wrong. I'm just pulling it down. And then it knows where I'm continuing from. Now, if somehow I lose it, like right now, it doesn't know where I'm continuing from. That's surprising. I don't know what I did, but I could always click here to tell it I'm continuing. Or I could Option drag to create a new direction. Say, all right, go this way. Let me repeat that. If somehow you lose the end, the pencil's not recognizing it, right? You're not actually continuing the line. You can go to that edge and click it and then continue. You see how it knows where it's coming from. But if it feels angular, it might be better to do the sprout trick and sprout a new handle out of there. Look, I know that this is a challenge, right? And I know that I'm going quickly. And I also know that most artists are going to figure out large chunks of this by practicing and not by endless instruction. So I want to proceed to close this back off. But again, the handle's going off into space. So I have to use the Option trick on my Mac or Alt on Windows and sprout out a new handle. I told you I was going to close this up. I'm going to come over here, and now I'm going to close them. Rather awkwardly, and I do repeat it every time, to close a shape successfully, you do have to hold down Option again or Alt.
Professor, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is there any way to change the opacity of like the photo underneath or just like any of the layers?
Yes. And you know what? It's one of my favorite tricks for this kind of thing. So give me 1 minute because I'm about to be in a situation where that's going to make a lot of sense. And then I'm
Okay.
going to show you how to do it.
Thank you.
So I'm going to now fill that, right? And I'm going to give her some skin color, right? And you could tell that I got a very smooth shape. And even if I took the stroke out, I got a very smooth shape, right? And really, that's very few anchors. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 anchors to make that shape. And I probably could have done it in 5, but it's smooth enough. I'm pretty happy with it. Thing is, though, if there was stuff underneath that I still needed to see, I'd rather have this be transparent. So one thing that's fabulous about Illustrator is we don't think of layers in transparency like you might in Photoshop. You think of separate objects. So if you find the need to work with transparency, you should go to the window menu and find the palette called Transparency. Here it is. Let me drag it over here. And I use this feature called opacity to lower the opaque means you can't see through it. So I'm lowering that and making it more transparent. Now I can see these little sketch marks and things. Annette, did that help?
Yeah, it did.
Great. I use it all the time for this technique. I use it particularly if I'm drawing over photographs, you know, so I'm not losing my source material. So at that point, I'm going to deselect this. I hold down Command, I'm deselecting it, and I'm choosing a next spot that I could draw a closed shape on. I'm going to do the far arm. So here I go. I press and pull. I'm pointing in the direction I want to go. And I'm coming all the way down to her elbow on this one. And I think I'm just about going to get it. Oh, I have a fill. Right, I told you that gets confusing. Maybe I'm going to let it be, see if it works. Right, it's a weird fill. It looks like a shard. So I'm going to ignore it for the moment and just see. But I do see that the curve wants to keep going. So I have to change directions again. And I am definitely loving the sprout method. So I hold down Option, sprout a new direction. At any point, oops, you see, that's why I don't like working with a fill. It thinks I made a big triangle there. So I'm going to change this up. I'll click black and white, and I'll just take the white out. Yeah, I stand by what I said before. It's better to draw with this tool with the fill turned off. Anytime you want to change directions, it's Option or Alt. Now about this part, I could literally go anywhere I want. I could go completely over the back. I'm going to prove it to you. This is bizarre what your teacher's doing. Why would I do that? Because when I fill it, I could just send that to the back. Right? The lower layer, it's never going to go to the lower layer. It's a separate layer. I could use Command left bracket and just send it behind. The only reason it looks weird is because I was messing with transparency. So let me just make my point a little clearer. It's too many words. Give me a minute. You see, I didn't bother making a perfect edge here because I just didn't have to. I knew I could send it behind. You know, but if I was going to keep working with transparency like Annette was thinking, yeah, okay, maybe it was worth just following that edge. I'm going with opaque colors whenever I'm ready, so that lets me put things behind each other to save some drawing time.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes.
Is there a way to make that one whole shape? Like take the two separate closed drawings and like
join
make it, yeah.
To be honest with you though, like that did occur to me, right? Because this line on her back doesn't really look necessary. I mean, they were trying to describe the other edge of the bathing suit, I think. So I took advantage of it to make her forearm a little darker to create more distance. But if I already knew I didn't want to do that, I would have drawn it all at once. I would have needed to combine them. I would have
I'm just asking because I had like something with my project that I wasn't sure how to do that with.
I'm going to answer it because I got an answer for you. So let's say after the fact, I thought, oh man, I really should have joined those. Let me show you how to do it. I'm in good shape because they're really overlapping. So if the shapes overlap, the answer is yes. Here's how you do it. One, by the way, this is a feature we're going to hit next time I see you. I'm pretty sure next Monday. We'll get a peek at it now. I'm going to go to the window menu. I'm going to get a popular feature called the Pathfinder. Mine's checked, which means it's out, but I don't see it. So I'm going to just click it and go back. There it is. This is what I'm talking about, Pathfinder. The one that Samantha needs is this one. This is called Unite. And the way it works is, so again, by the way, all these palettes from the window menu, right? You lose any of these things floating around my stage, just go to the window menu. This one's called Pathfinder, very dramatic name. All right, I'm going to select one shape, hold down Shift, and select the other one. The two shapes I want are both selected. And now I click Unite. Was that what you needed? So, like for me, on mine anyway, it doesn't look so great. You know, it looks like her arm's doing some weirdly impossible twist, you know. But I imagine on the other figures or the way you drew yours, it might look perfect. It is a feature we're going to be all over pretty soon. It's fun. So that was unite. You can unite any overlapping shapes, even numerous overlapping shapes. I'm going to Command Z out of there though for mine. So you move on. The thing is, you're always trying to remember what your goal is. Like you want closed shapes. That's why I'm getting to use these colors. I can come back with gradients later and it would be so much fun. But here I go. I'm coming over this edge now because I'm going to start working on the bathing suit itself.
Professor?
Yes.
So if you look at her other arm where it's got the crease like around her armpit.
Yeah.
So how would you do that with a closed shape?
You're asking me the hard question now. You know, this is not the thing that I'm best at. You know, strangely, as an animator, I use a different program that's also vector. I use Adobe Animate. And it's yeah, I love that program also. But that makes this particular moment a little bit easier. It sees fills differently. Illustrator is so uptight about how it sees fills that what I pretty much have to do is, like, for one, I'm not even using strokes now on mine. So I'm in trouble to begin with, because how am I going to do a floating line if there's no strokes elsewhere, right? But right now, that's the best I could actually come up with, would be to actually draw a little line there after the fills down.
Okay.
Top, you know, just put this on top later, you know, and I could get to see if I can get to that quickly and come up with what I can. I have to admit, it's not really my strong suit, and it's a good question, so I shouldn't fake it. But let me see what I could do here first. So I'm trying to get the bathing suit in line. Some people like to work with outlandish stroke colors while they draw, just so it's easy to see over the sketch. You know, bright green lines. There's the fill problem I keep complaining about. So I'm going to turn my fill off because it confuses me. I'm changing directions. I'm going to ignore the seam on the bathing suit. Take a little artistic license. But that's just like, actually, that's just like your question, Juliana, that seam. You know, I'd have to go back and draw it over the top, which is the best solution I could think of. Right now, I'm trying to just get a good contour, ignoring stuff like that. I'm drawing a lot of new direction lines, sprouting them. And I don't want to forget what my goal is here, because I'm, oops, there we go. I always, because sometimes I'll just get so into the line that I forget my strategy was wrong. I'm not actually closing a shape. Later on, when I get to color, I'm in trouble. All right, I'm going to hold down Option because I'm ready to close it. All right, let's see if there's any solution to these issues. All right, so I'm going to go with the seam, which is kind of like what you were asking, and see what I can do. I have to combine two ideas. Annette earlier had asked me about transparency, and I'm in a situation where I really need it so I can see the drawing, right? So I just lowered the transparency. Now on top, I'm going to draw a separate line just because it's floating there, right? Rather than having to make two separate objects to fill yellow, I'm just going to lie a line on top. And at any point I want, I could go back to the original and turn my opacity back up. Now I got the seam. Similar to what you asked, right? Little easier, I'll confess. I got lucky that I happened to have an easy option. I want to mention every now and then you could go to your layers and hide the sketch layer just to see how it's going. You know, and remember later you could put on strokes or take strokes off and use gradients or any of the tricks that you learned. But here's a way to get perfectly smooth drawing. And you can see here I didn't do so well. I'm going to hold down Command and see what the anchors are. There's just too many anchors over there, really, to get a smooth line. So I'm going to use the feature of the pen tool, which automatically recognizes anchors so I could take them out. That's what that minus sign means. And I think this is going to be better. I'm just going to grab that handle and stretch it out a bit. Much smoother. So I want to say something to everybody here. This tool has many, many, many applications, and they don't even stop in Illustrator. I don't mind if you draw while I talk, by the way. Photoshop has the same tool, and it's a wonderful selection tool in Photoshop. Imagine having to select the Statue of Liberty because you wanted to move her into the desert, make some kind of political statement, or under the water, right? So she'd have to be perfectly selected. You're not going to do that by hand. It'd be hard. Almost anyone would use the pen tool. So in Photoshop, the same steps are for power selecting, sharp-edged objects that are complex. Sports cars, like I said earlier, things with curves. In this program, it's a main drawing tool. But since I'm closing up soon, I do want to say a little bit more. I would like everybody to keep an open mind exploring numerous drawing tools, because I did say before how much I like the pencil tool, and I still love the pencil tool. And frankly, I have used it professionally a lot. For me, it's all about what's going to achieve the look I need to achieve. And this perfect smooth line thing has been all over graphics forever. And it was much harder in the days of compasses and protractors and weird tools that people would use on pen and paper to try to get these curves. Now it's all about the pen tool. The pen tool shows up in every major drawing program, in every major painting program. What I like about being a teacher here is I do believe it's at its most evolved in Illustrator. So if I keep going, I'm going to have something to feel really good about, and where I have a lot of choices about color and strokes. Here's no strokes right now, which I think is a very nice look. Or I could go back and put on some strokes. I got my stroke box in the front, so I could just choose a color. Things that I want to get to, this is a bit of a teaser. Are ways to create different kinds of stroke, and even strokes that do this. It looks like I mean it. Look, guys, it's 5:56. That was a teaser. I am going to mention it quickly just because it felt nasty to not really be a little clearer, right, for anyone who likes that kind of look. So I'm going to do that just one more time. Don't feel like, if you're tired, you could skip this particular thing for now. I just want to mention it. I had a simple default stroke, 1 point, and it really had no character. So I selected my drawings and I opened up the stroke palette, yet another one coming from the window menu. Stroke's all about those outlines. Stroke palette helps a lot. The brush palette helps a lot. I want to spend some time comparing them on a later date. But here I could change the weight. And then this feature, which I love. Uniform is boring. These are not. Here's one that changes quite a bit. Here's the one you saw a moment ago. And this is like a calligrapher's mark. Guys, I need to stop. And again, this is a fantastic practice project for anyone who's feeling it. I highly recommend saving it. You could continue it later if you like. I won't be collecting them though. I do want to just check the handout quickly because I went a little far. This. So I knew I wasn't going to get to 2 of these subjects, so I don't mind. I'm going to move them to another class. So the pictogram project is due next week, and I'm worried. If a couple of people didn't hand in project 1, I'm thinking it was probably a mistake, because that just doesn't happen at this school, right? So if you see a 0 on Blackboard, write me right away. Remember, I'm on your side. Something probably went wrong, right? It means I couldn't find your work in the folder. So you're going to have to put it in the late folder and send me an explanation if it wasn't late, so I don't take any points off. But if you happen to get a 0, it's because I couldn't find your work or you didn't hand it in. So take immediate action in either of those cases. Don't make me wait, all right? We're moving into deeper things, right?
I have a quick question about that project.
Yes, Micah.
So those grades that are posted on Blackboard, does that count towards the revisions too? Is that with the revisions or is that without?
No, I have to look at the revisions again and double check. I don't honestly remember whether I got to those. Some of you might have, only a few of you gave me revisions. Big thumbs up, by the way. I promise not to ignore them, Micah.
All right,
But
thank
I have to double check, to tell you the truth.
Thank
It's been
you.
on my mind for all my classes. Good question. But I won't neglect them because I really, the revisions I saw were so smart. People really got it, what they needed to do, and upgraded significantly. Anyway, we're moving forward. Don't let that be a zero. If something happened by mistake, let me know. Let's take immediate action. All right. If it was honestly late and we're 2 weeks down the road, you have to send me some kind of appeal because it's way late. I should have been told earlier that something went wrong. Your grade is mostly based on 4 projects, not the drafts, not our you know, transactions. It's mostly going to be based on the average of those 4 projects. Does anybody have any questions about next week? The drafts seem clear, so I'm not going to go over that box. If you have any doubt, just read the box. Send me any questions. Folks, does anybody have a class after this? You do? Wow. Did you have one before me, Christina?
No, but I have a midterm after this.
Do you? Wow, let me let you go. Take off. Everybody, I took attendance already. Folks, you're a very focused bunch. If I ever elbow people about looking sleepy, I do it with a full heart. I get it. You guys are rocking, right? I'll see you all next Monday, right? If you need me, send me an email. I was away the last few days, so I might not have seen emails, but I'm back. See you Monday, guys. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You're very welcome.
I have bells ringing, but I didn't want to just leave leave the chat without talking to you. I just figured it out.
You did? Oh, good.
Yes,
I
good.
almost forgot myself. Oh, great. Excellent.
No problem.
All right, see you,
All right, see you next Monday.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
on the midterm.
I'm sorry?
Good
Oh,
luck on your midterm.
thank you so much. Have a good week.
Bye. How you doing, Rachel? I see you sticking around. Are you there? No. Okay. That's you out on YouTube. See you later.